The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Hikaleo.
I am ELP.
And this is Keeping It Strong Style.
We love you.
Mwah.
Yo, this is Rich Latter from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy, Donovan, and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ASA podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll preview World Tag League and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice, and leave a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP subscribers. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Yeah, boy, how you doing, man?
I think one of these days, instead of using Rich's, we could still do Rich's rap, but I think we should hyperimpose it over the Harlem Heat theme music and then come in that way.
Dun, 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 dun.
Because I got the red going. If you guys are not in the chat, you can't see it live, but I've got the red ambient light going. That's because Harlem Heat raise the roof like it's 1997. You know what I'm saying?
Or like it's 2024 of Ultimo Guerrero.
the greatest WCW World Television Championship run of all time, Booker T. Oh man. I don't know. We got shit to talk about, but how are things going with you, man?
It's going good, and I just realized I haven't announced anything about what's going on in my life on the show. If you're friends with me on social media, you've seen it, but I'm expecting a baby in the next few months here. So come March is when the baby is due, bringing a little young lion into the world.
I do want to respond to what you're saying, Jeremy. I'm trying to settle my dog down, and he doesn't want to be upstaged by your son. You know what I'm saying?
Taking all the shine, Diggy.
Yeah, but we, El Hijo de Donovan, Jeremy too, is on his way.
Yeah.
Donovan Jr., whichever one of those monikers he would like to adopt. It's all good. It's happening. But congratulations to you and the missus. It's very exciting. And I can't wait to, play pranks on your kid and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's going to be great.
I ordered him a Lion Mark onesie from the Tokon Shop Global. So that just came in this past week.
I got an email from Tokon Shop saying that I've got a $30 credit. Did you get one of those?
I did when I first signed up.
But I didn't sign up. They just sent me one. And I'm like, is this a spam? Is this real? Like, what's happening? Oh, I know what it is. Never mind. It's real. Makes sense. Because I'm doing the Tanahashi series. I did sign up for the Japanese website, and it's like a membership. So they sent me 2 of them. So I don't know if you can stack those things or not.
You should try it.
One other thing too, I think we should make mention of, since this is probably the final week that it's going to be applicable. Yes. Well, next week it will too, but we've mentioned a few times that our chopped tees store,
chop-tees.com.
Yeah, chop-tees.com. We've mentioned how that is closing. The final day for that store will be November the 25th. So if you're dragging your feet, you're thinking about picking up some merch for the holiday season for you and loved ones, and you've been putting it off, this is the final week, basically, to drip yourself out with, the ace of the universe in the Keepin It Strong Style logo. So.
Yeah, so go ahead and check that out. Get your merch in one last time before we figure out what we're going to do next. So, yeah.
Are you guys nervous about you going to Japan?
A little bit. So, yeah, the baby is due in March, but also, sometimes baby come early. And her sister-in-law did have her baby, I think, a month and a half early or something crazy like that. So, she kind of has it in the back of her head. So, yeah, I'm praying that my son will stay inside the womb until after I get back from Japan, and do not want to miss the birth of my child. So hopefully that all works out.
I do. We've talked a little bit about that. I don't know if, we'll see what happens down the pike, but the thing that's been discussed is you're going to be in there. And I'm like, no, I'm fucking not. But bro, I don't think I can handle that. For real. I'm positive. I'm not even just speculating. I'm positive that I would pass out and they would have to they'd have to resuscitate me, revive me. I don't think I could see that. So yeah.
Oh man. Gonna take a bump.
Bro, one time, this was really traumatizing. I guess since last week, everyone liked the story I told. So one time I was in health class, right? And it was this miracle of life. And it was educating, during health class, educating us on the birthing experience. And it was this really old video. You would think it was do you remember when they used to put the projectors on? Did they ever have?
Oh, yeah.
So we're old enough to where the projector still exists. That shit doesn't exist anymore. But this wasn't a projector, but it might as well have been. It was definitely a late 70s, early 80s sort of video. And they're explaining, how a woman gets pregnant and blah, 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 blah. And it's all just very, they have the head of a real woman, but then just graphics, really terrible 1980s, it's cartoons basically. And they're showing how a baby gets born and everything. And the movie's almost an hour long or whatever. And they're taking it. It's so boring. And then unexpectedly, this is one of the greatest jump scares in the history of my life. Unexpectedly, they just go, all right, and now we will take you to the miracle of childbirth. And right then and there, in full, there'd been nothing that was real the entire movie. And then suddenly, in full, HD graphic, they show the birthing taking place, and it's completely uncut, raw, unfiltered. It's the wildest thing I ever saw in my life. And then the baby just plops out, and you're everyone in the class was oh my God. And then you hear the voice saying, I don't even know what it's saying. It's talking about blah, 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 umbilical cord or whatever. And then suddenly and then the afterbirth. And all this crap comes out and they show it. And then the credits start rolling, bro.
What grade was that?
It's I don't remember. It's 7th or 8th grade. Bro, it's the wildest thing I had ever seen in my life. And it's it's embedded deep into my psyche. I'll never forget it. It's just the craziest thing. They don't show anything at all the entire time. And then suddenly out of nowhere, just boom, there it is. And you're going to see this birth, whether you want to or not. It's the British Bulldog kid,
Oh, man. When I was in 3rd grade, we had a sex ed class thing.
Too young.
And my best, they would say vagina, penis, and the class just laughing or whatever. And then everybody kind of stopped. And my best friend at the time, he just kept laughing, wouldn't stop laughing, and got kicked out of class because he could not contain himself.
Who was it, LaBoy?
No, my boy. I didn't know LaBoy back then. Yeah, so my boy Brian. Yeah, funny stuff.
Nice, bro. Well, let's birth some audio magic here right now, you know?
Yeah. And, shout out to all the positive feedback we got last week from last week's episode. Got lots of shout outs from our fellow New Japan podcasters, JCast, We Work Stiff, friend of the show, Chris Samsa. So a lot of people kind of, putting us over for the episode last week. Got some emails. There was Reddit posts. We got aggregated. There was a lot of conversation and buzz coming off of our episode last week.
My favorite thing about all of it is how I learned that you and I are MAGA grifters. I wasn't quite aware that was an aspect of our political beliefs, ideology, or what we put out into the world. But apparently, there are those that believe that is what we represent. So, shout out to them,
Yeah, so I told my wife, I was like, yeah, I was giving the whole backstory in the episode. And I was like, yeah, then somebody called us MAGA grifters. She's like, what? She's like, well, what does that have to do with New Japan? I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, they do know you're black, right?
Jeremy, as you well know, there are plenty of people all over the spectrum of diversity that love Donald Trump.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I will say it's funny. Like, we're not going to get too deep in the woods here, but I've literally been disowned by members of my family. And I don't mean like figuratively. I'm talking literally in the past couple months for not supporting Donald Trump or the far right ideology and stuff like that. So it is kind of funny, but I saw that I was very careful last week with some of the wording that I was trying to convey. Very, very careful. And then immediately within hours of the show, I went to sleep and I woke up and it was already on Reddit and I was like, oh, fuck, I should have been maybe more careful. But I ended up talking to people that have spoken to us and I was like, everything good? And they were like, yeah, no, everything's good. So don't have too much to worry about in that regard. But I did think it was funny to see the whole thing posted on Reddit, but then completely cherry picking, mischaracterizing exactly the claims that we did or did not make. Mm-hmm. And there was a part of me immediately that was like, oh, it's so fucking early. I guess I should respond to this. And I was like, you know what? I don't really fucking care because I know what I'm talking about. Anyone that listened to the audio probably gets it. If they don't, that's on them. There was a time where I used to want to battle people that's had anything negative or critical to say of the show. But I'm at this point where I'm just like, I don't know, man. If you rock with us, cool. A lot of wrestling fans are fucking stupid. And it's true. And it's if I'm going to try and waste my time, I got work to do this morning. I got clients I need to see and appointments. And it's if I'm trying to right the wrongs and be like, that's not what we meant. What we really meant, you're misunderstanding. No one's going to care because you're not going to convince someone who is thinking the opposite way anyway. So it's just all right, whatever. And what's funny? Whoever posted that got ratioed so bad. Yeah, they just fucking deleted it within a few hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of our listeners that jumped in the comments section there, and especially responding to the person calling us MAGA grifters. And so, yeah, a lot of our listeners came out there, supported and kind of shut that thread down. And even some, users I don't recognize were kind of breaking down, well, that's not what they said. If you're actually gonna break down what they say, here's an accurate version. After that, he deleted it.
Well, there was even one post that I saw where the person was making corrections, and I was like, yeah. And then they started saying other stuff, and I'm like, no. I was like, that's not what I said. But it's whatever, it's it's telephone. You hear something on a show, you repeat it back. Everyone's got their own view on things, and it is what it is. It doesn't matter. But I know that this is still a continuing topic. I will say, I don't really care to continually dive deep into what we've already talked. I don't want to retread over the same territory. I know we're going to discuss this a little bit because it's kind of continued.
Yeah.
But if you want the in-depth thoughts, I would say for the last 2 weeks, go back to both. You don't have to listen to the whole show. You know, we got timestamps on what's it called? What's the thing that like auto timestamps the shit now? Is it Spotify?
Yeah, Spotify. Yeah, puts the chapters in there for you.
Yeah, that's nice. You guys can just go back and listen to those segments and see how you feel, or, you know, maybe you already listened to them. So it's like, I'm not going to retread over. I'm not going to lay out the same argument all over again. We might have a little bit of color to add here. That's about it.
Yeah. So we're going to do some follow up on the whole Tanahashi Okada announcement here. And I'm going to go through some news that came out surrounding this and kind of give our final thoughts, and then we can move on to World Tag League. So from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave reported Shinsuke Nakamura absolutely was interested in the match with Hiroshi Tanahashi. It was a topic within WWE. Those in WWE who confirmed Nakamura's interest and another who confirmed the nature of his contract, but no deal had been made. They did not respond on whether WWE did clear him for the date. Then we go over to Fightful. Sean Ross Sapp saying there are conspiracy theories that Tony Khan and AEW blocked Shinsuke Nakamura from wrestling Hiroshi Tanahashi at the Tokyo Dome. Nobody from WWE had even heard of that being broached, and NJPW always knew it was a pipe dream. Numerous NJPW sources confirmed there was no AEW shutting down that match. It was very clearly stated from a rep that there was no situation like that happening. Then we jump to NHK Radio, Tanahashi doing an interview, and Tanahashi talked about Shinsuke Nakamura, and he said that...
And for context here, this story broke out last week, 1 week ago, just after we had recorded our show, and predated these other two reports that followed, which is perplexing to me why we're still talking about it after this, bit of audio.
Yeah, so Tanahashi, speaking about Nakamura, says that he met with Nakamura ahead of WWE's show in Japan, and they wanted to face each other, but due to AEW being New Japan's partner, who was a rival promotion of WWE, it was impossible. And then we go to Wrestling Observer Radio. Dave commented more, and it's saying Nakamura wanted to do it. Tanahashi and Nakamura absolutely discussed it. As far as why it didn't happen, whether the decision was made, if Tanahashi is going to retire against his most legendary opponent, that's Okada. It's not Nakamura. From a political standpoint, obviously Okada is an easier one. You can get that one done with no problem. With Nakamura, you got to work with WWE. What WWE would ask for, we don't know. I have never heard anything that WWE had worked out a deal with them and Tony Khan got in the way. I never heard that from WWE. And then going into ticket sale announcements from The Observer, the announcement of Kazuchika Okada as Tanahashi's final opponent led to a second big run of ticket sales since the weekend. They sold about 6,000 tickets pretty quickly after the announcement, so they're about 37,500 sold with almost 2 months to go, which would be the best advance for a pro wrestling show in Japan in more than 20 years. And then we had the official report from NJPW1972.com saying on November 16th, 7 weeks in advance of the event, it was announced that Wrestle Kingdom has officially sold out its configuration in the Tokyo Dome, making it already the best-selling event in the 20-year history of Wrestle Kingdom. Work is currently being undertaken to add more seats to the outfield area and the floor of the Tokyo Dome, and announcements will be made soon about limited extra seating. So
great job compiling all of that those different reports there, Jeremy.
Thank you. Do you want to jump into questions, or do you have any other initial thoughts from those reports?
Well, I think this. I think last week, one thing that I don't want to retread all over it, but the one thing I will say, I want to draw the delineating line. There are stories that we heard, right? And I think I could probably peel the curtain back even a little bit further just now because there's so many people that have been talking about this. But we started hearing about this particular controversy about 4 to 5 weeks ago, way before it was ever discussed in the public sphere at all.
Yeah.
And with that being said, we are not journalists. The amount of times that we hear things that take place in the background, whether it's verifiable or not, we have never been known as a news source that breaks news. Like, that's just kind of not our thing. We may allude to something here and there from time to time, but most of the time we kind of keep our mouth shut, just because I think it's really out of respect for the kayfabe and the creative, because oftentimes some of this stuff is something that can really spoil it for the audience and doesn't necessarily contribute to meaningful discussion, you know?
Yeah.
The other thing too is, like, have we ever had anyone from the company, in terms of like wrestlers or tangentially connected wrestlers, reach out to us? Sure, from time to time. But I will say this, you know, this old adage that the boys like to chat and talk, we're not one of those sources. Like, we don't have wrestlers beating down our doors to tell us everything that's going on. What we do, and I'll be honest with you, is like, we talk to a lot of people that are connected in many different ways all over Japan from a variety of sources. And the story that we heard is the same story I've heard from every single person that I've talked to prior to anything like going public. And many of those people were people reaching out to me, telling me what was going on. They all had the same story. They're all coming from completely different sources. Now, let me draw the delineating line here, because this is something that I do feel like was represented last week, and I want to be abundantly clear on this. I do personally believe that there was a situation where Tony blocked it. But that doesn't mean that is what actually happened. And last week I saw someone posted that I was saying that this is a fact based on what was told to me. And that's not necessarily the case. Were there versions of that story where I heard that? Sure. But, you know, as Jeremy was on the same show, and like Jeremy doesn't necessarily think that that's exactly what happened. He feels like, you know, there's any number of things that could have happened. Mm-hmm. I draw that conclusion based primarily off of what I've laid out over the past few weeks about the succession of events that have occurred that have led to this. And it is me drawing my own conclusions.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I joked last week about, you know, doing your own research, but it's like, if you put the pieces together, like, it kind of does lean into that camp of Tony Khan blocked it. It's like, all right, there was this NKH radio interview that said that Tanahashi and Nakamura talked before the WWE Japan show. And then you had the teases at the WWE Japan shows. And then there were no teases. And then all of a sudden Gato's talking about, I'm going to call somebody. So if you put the pieces together, it does look like that. Again, we don't know 100% sure what happened, who said what, who stopped what. But if you look at the pieces of the puzzle and start putting them together, it kind of does look that way.
I mean, I could tell you some other stuff that I've spoken to people about that's been confirmed. There was intel within Social Suplex a year ago that New Japan was going to reach out to WWE to try and make a play to allow them to use Nakamura for Tanahashi's retirement. That was a year ago. I've talked to other individuals in the space who, as far back as February of last year, had heard the exact same thing. And so this isn't like, and you know what? I think the funny thing about it is, right, Jeremy, a lot of the New Japan podcasts are interconnected in the community. They do talk to people. They do have sources. And we all kind of keep our mouths shut for the reasons that I said earlier, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's this idea that we're coming out sour grapes because we want to be aligned with WWE or we want to vilify Tony Khan and paint him as the enemy and scapegoat him for the terrible state that the company is in. And, you know, there's probably some truth for some people in that sphere, but I know that, and, you know, I don't really usually try to talk about the other podcasts, but I know WeWorks, that's not doing that shit. JCast's not doing that shit. You know, speaking of Strong Style's not doing that shit. You know, Okada Shorts or I'm sorry, Ichiban Sweet Boys, Never, all those guys. They're not. That's not really their bag. We're all kind of saying the same thing with totally different sources. And every single one of those shows takes the company to fucking task and holds them accountable for the terrible state that the company is in creatively and managerially.
Yeah.
So I think it is funny that we're being represented as these angry fanboys who are playing, you know, I don't know, fantasy or whatever, and whatever. That here's what I will say: we have never tried to get clout for any of the shit that we've ever heard. We have never engaged in the grift or sensationalism. Mm-hmm. And I do say this. Do I have direct sources on anything we've talked about? I said this last week. No. But I will tell you this. The shit that we hear, when we hear it, with like 99% accuracy, is never fucking wrong.
Yeah.
We never hear, we keep our mouths shut, but we never hear shit that is wrong. Like, ever. I can't remember the last time someone told me some outlandish shit and then it ended up not actually playing out the way that we were told behind the scenes that shit was happening.
Yeah, I think the only time that happened was like 2018.
Yeah, it's been so long. So it's like, if I'm hearing this, and here's the thing, and this is the last thing I'll say about this. Sean Ross Sapp's report does conflict with Dave's, because Dave is saying when he reached out to the company, they said that, you know, there was no deal worked out. You know, Nakamura wanted to do it, but he couldn't get a lot of intel. And then you got Sean Ross Sapp, who's like, nobody in the company even fucking knew it was happening. How do these two things, no one has ever been broached? I know that that's a fucking lie, because I know for a fact, based off of reputable reporting, including individuals that are, I won't say it, but I just think that it is funny that so many of us who we don't make money. I mean, sure, we got a little Patreon, sure, we get a little ad revenue, but we're not making money. Like, we have real jobs, real lives. This is a passion project primarily for us. Mm-hmm. The fact that we all knew this, and everyone behind closed doors for a long time, and I've talked to people who knew about it even further back before we knew about it. The fact that we all can kind of gather this stuff and have connections, I just find it really suspect that Dave and Sean Ross Sapp either don't know and aren't able to reach out and verify it, or they do know and they're not willing to expound on it, because I feel like the wording in their reports are very selective. Mm-hmm. and they're leaving a lot of open-ended opportunities to ask questions or report on what they do or don't know. And they're kind of just avoiding it. They're leaving the loud part out. Like, they're just leaving it out. And, you know, it's like, I just think I don't know. I think it's shoddy journalism, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. And you know, back to your point about like people thinking it's got WWE support thing. Like, I think that you can realize that Tony Khan potentially blocked this match and not hate Tony Khan or hate AEW. Like, if that's what he did, whatever. Like, from his point of view, as a businessman and a working partnership, I can understand from his point of view why he would do that. And that doesn't make me hate Tony Khan. I'm not stopping to watch AEW. I'm still watching Dynamite and the pay-per-views and all that stuff. I'm still invested in that product. And I don't think that, you know, 1 + 1 = 2 there, where, oh, he blocked it, so now we have to hate him. Or we blocked him and now we have to love WWE.
I mean, I will tell you, I'm a little bit, this is just me as a fanboy. I believe that Nakamura and Tanahashi was something he wanted to do and he didn't get to do it. And I'm just on a personal level angry about it. But I've said this on the show. I see the reasons why someone in Tony Khan's position, especially considering the history with WWE, why he would have made the play, hypothetically speaking, if he in fact did, that he would have. It would have made sense. At the same time, I don't know. And, you know, I feel New Japan's point of view on that might have been different, you know, but who knows? One other thing I do want to address is, like, last week I did have the argument that I felt like the match would be much bigger with Nakamura. And obviously they're doing incredible business with Okada in the spot. And I don't know necessarily if that, and I'm not trying to take anything away from them, because I think I think Okada returning to the company after the way that he left and having stayed away, and now he's back in this big spot is definitely an attraction. You know, there's no getting around it. That's 100% the case. So much so that even before this match happened, you and I earlier this year were like, well, what if they brought in Okada for the IWGP title or something like that? So like, we've always known that was something that would have appeal and would help sell tickets. And they've already sold out the configuration they have. They're having to expand. I don't know if they're going to continue to use the same sort of rig that they've used in the past for Wrestle Kingdoms, or if they'll even consider potentially downsizing that, because I know.
Yeah, I think that with the outfield configuration, I was hearing that they will have to have a smaller stage to do the additional configuration they want to do.
I think that's fantastic if that's the case. And, you know, in the middle of doing the Tanahashi series, I'm right at the point where Bushiroad has just taken over, and they announced for the first Wrestle Kingdom 7 that they were managers over. Well, no, they didn't own the company, but they were buying it at that time. And, or maybe I've got that wrong. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The first Wrestle Kingdom that they announced numbers for was Wrestle Kingdom 7. That was Tanahashi versus Okada the first time in the Dome. And they announced like 29,000 paid tickets sold. And that was like a significant drop from the 2 years prior. But there were these reports coming out from like Dave at the time being like, these 40,000 plus tickets were not real. They didn't even have that many people in the building, and they papered a lot of it. Right. Mm-hmm. And Bushiroad came out at the time and said, yes, these numbers seem down, but this is the first time in the history of the company's existence that we have ever reported factual tickets sold. Not people in the building, not papered seats, not inflated numbers that couldn't even physically fit into the building. Like, this is what we actually did, and this is a fantastic number for us. So it's been a very, 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 very long time since there was a Wrestle Kingdom show this big. The closest one would have been, what was the Wrestle Kingdom where Naito won the title?
2020.
Right, but what number was that? I was 14?
Yeah, I think so. 14, 13.
They did like 41K 14, there. Yeah. And they're going to pass that for night 2. I think they did 41K. They're going to surpass that number here. And they're probably going to do a number similar to the days of Hashimoto and Inoki at the top of the card and Muto, which is just outstanding. But I will say this. I can't sit here and say for sure that having Nakamura in the building would sell more tickets. I think we have to see how it's all going to shake out when it's all said and done. But I do still believe that would be a huge, like, I don't think that they would have sold less tickets by having Nakamura versus Okada.
Yeah.
And I did listen to One Nation Radio this week, and they kind of threw out the argument for why that wouldn't be the case. And they were basically saying like Okada or Nakamura was just in WWE in Japan, and they did abysmal numbers. And my answer to that would be like, well, that's situational and brand specific. And what I mean by that is we've seen a lot of instances historically where guys who are big stars in the wrong spaces don't do big business on their own. And then you take them out of those spaces and you put them on the big stage, and the excitement for a return like that. And I can think of like Tenryu being in that situation. Takada's another one. Muto has done that before. Even Hashimoto, guys who have like left, gone and done other things, and then they're brought back, and there's the nostalgia aspect of like, oh my God, they're finally fucking back. Let's go see them in the Dome. Mm-hmm. I think I think Nakamura wrestling for WWF isn't a draw because WWF isn't a draw. Just in the same way, and I'll be honest with you, I think if AEW came and tried to do big business in Japan without New Japan and they just ran Okada, I don't think they would do well either. Which is the reason why I think it makes sense why Okada, like Nakamura, is doing well in this spot, because it's not just about them as a talent. It's about them in the Dome against Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom.
In New Japan, because they also
in New Japan.
ONR, they mentioned, Nakamura coming back for Noah, and that not really being a huge success either. And
it was a huge success though.
Yeah, for Noah, but I think they were trying to make the point like there wasn't like this huge sellout, like people dying to see him. And to your point, it's like in Japan, people are very like brand loyal. And we've seen that, especially when people jump ship and come to other promotions. And, we see that with like guys like Kenta, huge star in Japan, jumps New Japan, and, he's getting called Noah trash. And we've seen this time over time, like when these guys come in for like a long-term thing, obviously I think outsiders are welcome, like in tournaments and they get into it, I think it's cool. But like when a guy kind of fully jumps ship coming from like another company, there is that kind of brand loyalty, that brand respect. And I think like, yeah, Nakamura in Noah, I mean, I guess, that's maybe a cool thing, but like Nakamura in New Japan, I think that fan base would have loved that opportunity. I think that would have been, just as big as Okada in the spot.
Well, the other thing with that too is like, for Muto's retirement show, they still did one of the strongest like attendances in the Tokyo Dome in many, many years. Like they did 30,000, just over 30,000. That is a huge number in the modern age. And they held it on a weird day, like in the middle of the week. So it's like, that's nothing to scoff at, 30,000 people. So yeah, I don't know. With that being said though, you might not be able to make the business argument that might be negated in this instance, but I do still hold on to the idea that I think this is who Tanahashi wanted to wrestle. It's neither here nor there. Was this rumor that came out this week that perhaps that match could somehow be arranged for the Nippon Budokan show on 1-1 for Noah. And if that's the case, I'm like, you and I, we got to figure out a way to get off that plane and jet over there and perhaps be in the building if it's possible. Fraser, if you're listening, hook a brother up. We need some tickets. We need someone to help us. But yeah, I mean, all's well that ends well, though, at the end of the day. Like, I think that it is funny that there are continuing reports. Here's the thing that I think is funny about it all. Like you said, Tanahashi, without using the specific words, he pretty much said, like, we wanted to do this match and it was impossible because of the business partnerships. That's all he said. You could read that many different ways. I think it pretty much spells out what many people have been alluding to for, at least a month now. And then to have Sean Ross Sapp and Dave Meltzer both kind of come out and give conflicting reports to the president of the company, who just fucking said basically what his intentions were and what happened. I think it's weird. And I think it still continues to feed into what I've been saying, is that those guys don't really have Japanese contacts. That's true. It's been a long time since they did. And I don't trust them I don't consider either of them an authority when it comes to speaking about Japanese companies, including New Japan. And I think it's interesting how the narratives that they're putting out there really only benefit one particular company that they both have a lot of access to. So I don't know. Does it take a rocket science to kind of figure out what's probably happening there?
Yeah. The one thing that Dave said this morning that did kind of make me think, oh, maybe Tony Khan didn't block it. He was like, if Tony Khan blocked it, like, people in WWE would have like ate that up and would have pushed that out as a PR story to be like, yeah, we wanted to do it, but Tony Khan didn't want to do it. Like, WWE would take any opportunity to like make AEW look bad. And the fact that there wasn't this big like press of like, yeah, we want to do it. It was done, but Tony Khan didn't want to do it, and like kind of pointing the finger at Tony Khan.
There is some truth to that. I think that's a really great point. But this wasn't necessarily a situation where WWE was entering into a business relationship and promoting the idea of sending their guy over to be a representative. That's not what was on the table or being discussed in the first place. So I feel like it might potentially been hard for them to come out and say what occurred without also addressing their side of the wrongdoing and their side of the shenanigans that has taken place here. And it kind of opens a can of worms for them to also allude to that. But he does have a point.
Yeah. Well, we got some questions here on this, and then we'll get to World Tag League.
Can't wait.
Death Triangle 720 says, with Wrestle Kingdom 20 selling out its initial setup, do you think Nakamura announcement would have done the same if it wasn't Okada announced?
I do. I personally do. But then I think it also begs the question, maybe what we've been saying all along isn't necessarily even accurate. Is it possible that this would have happened with any major name opponent against Tanahashi? I don't know, but it's hard to speak in hypotheticals. We can only talk in reality. And the reality is Okada has helped sell tickets and is the other side of the marquee match that's doing the business. So
yeah. And I mean,
it is what it is.
Yeah. I think a large amount of tickets went with just, the announcement of Tanahashi's retirement. And so, yeah, I think regardless if it was, Okada, Nakamura, Omega, or Naito, I feel like you would have had similar or the same ticket selling. Like I said, obviously we don't know, it's hypothetical, but I feel like any big star in that spot would have drawn the same amount of tickets.
I also think they've done a great job with building scarcity, because when you make an event seem very select and you're like, the tickets are moving fucking fast, then people are like, oh shit, I better buy my tickets. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then the tickets do sell and then people are like, I want to go, but I can't. Now everyone's going. This is the hot thing that's happening. Now they're going to have to open up more tickets. It's kind of brilliant.
Yeah. Next question here from Ferdinand Dingo. Josh said more than once that Nakamura would have done better business than Okada. Does he still believe that to be the case?
I don't know anymore. I think it would have been comparable, possibly better. My reasoning behind that, though, wasn't just based on in-house ticket sales. I also wonder if Nakamura Tanahashi would have been a more appealing marquee match internationally than the Okada Tanahashi. And maybe I'm off base there. Maybe I'm counting on the idea that Nakamura has gained all of this mainstream WWE fan appeal and he will carry some of that over with him. And maybe that's just not the case. On the flip side of it, you do have Okada and Tanahashi, which is this legendary, it's the greatest in-ring rivalry in the history of New Japan and the thing that kind of defined the golden age of the company. And perhaps that's the better draw. I don't truly know, but I don't think it would do worse business. Yeah, and I do suspect that there's a chance that it could have meant more worldwide than the Okada match. And the main reason, it's not because I don't think Okada's a star. I think the main reason I felt that way, and probably still do, is the relative recentness of the Okada Tanahashi matches that took place just a year or two ago, or just like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So for me, I feel like there's more novelty in the way you can market Nakamura and Tanahashi. Plus, the idea that like, holy shit, a WWE guy is being allowed to go work New Japan. There is that sense of like, you don't think that the tribalistic WWE fans wouldn't want to fucking watch this shit? Maybe that's right. Like they wouldn't want to watch that shit on the same night that like Tony Khan's guys are. Come on, bro.
Next question here from Brian, and then shout out to Brian. He sent me a very nice long email. Somebody who's been listening since 2022. But he did have a question as a part of his email. He says, I remember a lot of why Okada was disgruntled before he left could be traced back to his relationship with Takami Obari. Do you think NJPW's business, issues with the Japanese economy and yen notwithstanding, is still feeling the effects of Harold May and Obari's pretty disastrous runs as president, and that could be attributed to some of NJPW's struggles?
I can't really speak 100% to the ins and outs of what took place politically within the company. I do see a lot of people that have had negative things to say about Harold May, but I've heard a lot of positive things about the guy as well. I will tell you this, even though the company came pretty close to potentially closing down during the pandemic, he made sure all the wrestlers were paid. He made sure that everyone was taken care of and that people were, safe. So, just want to throw that out there. Also, I do think it's funny that a lot of the negative reports about Harold May at that time were coming primarily from Dave, whose primary, informants within the company was basically the elite.
Yeah.
And they were the ones who primarily didn't like Harold May, is my understanding. So, take that for what it is. But yeah, I do remember there being scuttlebutt about Obari and Okada having issues And I don't really quite remember. There was actually something recently in our Discord where people were talking about the presidency issue when like Okada left and had Tanahashi taken over, but I don't really quite, I remember something about this, but I don't remember the ins and outs. So hard to say.
Yeah, I do remember like there was that talk of putting Tanahashi in is almost was a play to keep Okada.
To try and keep him.
Yeah,
that's right. It kind of was, wasn't it?
Yeah. And they were
Did
hoping.
That happen before he left or after he left? It happened before he left, right?
It did, yeah. And I think there was a play, and I think Tanahashi. They were hoping Tanahashi would like get him to stay, and it didn't end up working out.
Maybe they should have made him present. Although I feel like the KOPW thing that kind of fucked him, you know.
Yeah.
Can't trust a dude who introduces that concept.
All right, let's jump into World Tag League 2025. Question here from friend of the show, Rich Latta. He says, as you celebrate another year of KISS, which coincides with the World Tag League, can you describe what it feels like when you see that tournament coming up? LOL.
A little bit of anxiety because I know it's why are you laughing? I feel anxiety simply for the fact that it's a very tight, compact, long tournament. But more so, I feel anxiety because it's the end of our calendar year, and it means we need to start getting awards together.
Yeah, that's what I think of. It's like, all right, World Tag League. Oh, damn! Like we gotta
do the awards.
Work all these awards.
With that being said, the end of the year is a busy time. We got FOH coming up. We got the Japan trip coming up. I'm deep in the throes of Tanahashi Ace of the Universe, and I'm almost like kind of considering like I'll watch World Tag League, but maybe cherry pick it a little bit and like dedicate my time to making sure I watch like Tanahashi versus Ishii and like Tanahashi versus like, Shingo. So I can get this shit out. But I do remember the first year we ever covered the World Tag League, and I felt like we were just fucking G's. I was like, we're the only ones doing this shit on this level. We're the only ones talking about the backstage comments of Tenzan. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the reality is like the other podcasts out there that were covering it very loosely, they had the right idea. This is not tenable. You can't do this every year after, we have
been though.
We have been, but I will tell you like the amount of like, focused attention I have on it is nowhere near it was in say like 2017 when I was like, man, super strong team, the best friends.
Yeah, what's going on with Chuck E. T? Like,
what's going on with Chuck E. T?
Snapping was that whole storyline. Like, we were like breaking that down, like watching the promos. Like,
this Hangman Adam Page guy, they got him with Ujiro, but he's pretty good. So yeah.
Oh man. And then question from Rambo and Slam Pigs is, am I a fool for actually being kind of excited about this tag league?
No, it looks good. We talked about it briefly last week, but I think there's hype around it. I think people are excited, especially since we know so little about what's going on in the Tokyo Dome. The stakes feel bigger to some extent.
Yeah, especially we have so many guys not on the card. You got to figure that some of these guys need to find their way on there. And so there's a lot of potential people who could win this thing. Well, we'll start in the A block, kind of give our thoughts on all these teams and their thoughts of potentially winning the tournament. So in the A block, we'll start with Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi. So they were tournament winners in 21, 22, and 2023. Honestly, the top tag team pretty much since the pandemic. I think a very heavy favorite to win here, considering, Goto's run and Goto not being booked for the card yet.
Yeah, I think a lot of this really just comes down to how do you think that they're going to get these different guys in this tournament onto the Tokyo Dome card, and how will that affect the projections of the booking of this tournament? That being said, Goto, he was a main event player this year. He was like maybe the top heavyweight of the year outside of Takeshita. It was like him and Takeshita were like the top two guys. And you have to wonder, like, is he going to get relegated for the time being back to Bishamon, which is okay. I mean, they really are kind of this generation's Tenkoji, and you can't count them out. They've won the tournament so many times. But then there's also the fact of, is that where we see Goto landing in the Tokyo Dome? And I think it also begs to open up the question, do we see this as being just someone is coming out of this tournament, they're the winners, they're going to challenge the Knockout Brothers, and that's that? Or to get more guys on the card, are we doing a 3-way or even potentially a 4-way? And that kind of whichever way you think that might go will probably affect how you predict the booking of the tournament to play out, you know?
Yeah, and obviously the tag team title picture has always been, open for multi-man style matchups. So I can easily say at minimum they're potentially being a 3-way match, if not a 4-way. And so I'm
leaning to a 3-way personally.
Yeah, and with that, Bishamon's definitely going to be one of those teams that could potentially be in there. Because I just don't know. There's not really a single spot open for him right now. So yeah, I don't know what else you would do with him except maybe put him in the Rambo again, which I don't know if that's the best spot for him right now. So yeah, I definitely see Bishamon as one of the teams that could get in there.
There's also the other side of it where it's like, okay, we want to talk about who could win the tournament out of this block, but you also have to think about, conversely, who could make it to the finals but not necessarily win, and how would that be affected? And Bishamon is one of the only teams in the A block where not only do I think they could win the block, but they could also win the entire tournament. And so I think they are heavy favorites in the A block for that reason.
Yeah, and something else for us to keep in mind too, they are doing a semi-final format. So we are going to have the...
I didn't know that.
We're going to have the A1 versus the B2, the B1 versus the A2. So again, I think with the semifinal...
That opens things up a lot.
Yeah. You could have a team, they, slide into semifinals and were strong the whole tournament but lose.
Did Chris Samsa fire up the prediction ballot and get that shit out there so we can,
I know. I did not see a link out for that.
Missed opportunity. Yeah, maybe next year.
But yeah, Bishamon definitely, 7th time in the tournament. I think they're going to be one of the highlights of the tournament to watch. And yeah, I think they are a heavy favorite to at least go to the semifinals, if not the finals.
Well, yeah, now that you've mentioned it's going to be 2 top teams, that really opens things up a lot. So maybe we can give some early predictions towards the end here. But yeah, I with that being the case, I think it would be crazy if they didn't at least make it to the playoffs.
Yeah. Then following that, we got the Hantai team of Bolton Oleg and Toru Yano. So this is their 2nd consecutive entry in the league here. To me, I don't really see these guys as a heavy favorite. With Yano, obviously, there's going to be probably upsets with Yano, and they have been pushing Bolton a little bit more this year, but I'm not sure if I see them getting to even semifinals.
When you say pushing, what do you mean? Who's doing the pushing?
Well, I mean, Bolton's had like those Takeshita matches. He was never champion. Like he's definitely been elevated compared.
By who?
By the company.
And who decides that sort of stuff for the company?
Oh, Yano.
I mean, Yano is on the fucking booking committee. Like, I think it's funny that this guy's like, I'll take Oleg Bolton, no big deal. It's not really fair. I think they could do well. Yano tends to do well in these tournaments when he's not teamed with Tanahashi.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's kind of on the downside of his, it's not like when he, like the heyday where he used to team with Ishii and, kind of rack up wins in these tournaments. But I don't see them being I think for a lot of people, they would look at this and like, okay, Oleg Bolton is like the star and Yano is his pin eater. And that's not quite the vibe here. Like they're probably going to do fairly well.
Yeah. But last year they were 5-2.
See, they're going to do well. Do I think it's impossible that they could make it to the semifinals in like the A2 capacity? I don't think that's impossible. I'm not counting on it. But then again, this is a company that is trying to push Oleg Boltin, and you can't discount the idea that that would be in play.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there are a couple other strong teams here that could get that A2 spot. But yeah, like you mentioned, Yano's done well in these tag leagues before, and they're pushing Boltin. Yeah, they were 5-2 last year, which was very close to getting them into the finals. So yeah, I think they will be a strong team and could potentially be on that cusp of getting to the finals or semifinals. But I don't know. I just feel like there's some other strong teams in here that they would have to leap over. And one of those teams would be the next team here of Yota Tsuji and Gabe Kidd. So obviously this is a debuting team here, and it's just coming out of the whole unaffiliated Bullet Club War Dog truce. And we got these two rivals, these guys who've been rivaling all year, teaming up together in the league.
I really can't see how this is. It's an all-star team with two top guys, and they've got so much history with one another. And I think we would. I don't think it's going to shock me when they do inevitably showcase a little bit of chemistry working with one another to some extent. But the egos are going to be involved. Tsuji's got the spot that Gabe Kidd wants. Neither of these guys are focused on tag team wrestling. And there's also the fact that Tsuji is very much on his way to the Dome. And historically, they just don't really put guys that are on their way to headline the Tokyo Dome in major prominent positions in this tournament. For that reason, I think because it's not Tsuji and just Tsuji and a pin eater, it's hard to be like, they're not going to do well. It's him and Gabe Kidd, and they're pretty much almost equals. So they're going to do well. Is it even possible they could go to the semifinals? I think it's possible. I will say this, though. I'm not going to predict what they're going to do in terms of numbers because it's hard for me to say. Obviously, they can't eat too many pinfalls because you don't want to weaken Gabe, and you don't want Tsuji, looking weak heading into the Dome either.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked if they eat 2 or 3 and then don't make it to the semifinals. But you know how I've had this theory that the whole War Dogs Bullet Club thing or the War Dogs unaffiliated thing might blow up post, come New Year's Dash.
Mm-hmm.
I've been speculating that it would be Finley as the guy that would be the first challenger for Tsuji. But what if this is setting the stage for Gabe Kidd to be that first challenger in February? And what if that's his exit from the company? That's the swan song. Tsuji finally eradicates him, gets rid of him, and he goes off to go work for Tony Khan. And that's that. I could totally see that being this setting the groundwork for that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could happen. Obviously, they've really built up these Tsuji Gabe matches after the great match I had in Osaka at the beginning of this year. And so, yeah, it would be a year from that first matchup. And I think that would be a great title match and a great way to position two young guys in the main event, whether Gabe is leaving or not. So, yeah, that could be the planting of seeds here, or it could be, anybody from the War Dogs that potentially could step up and challenge Tsuji post Wrestle Kingdom. But, yeah, I do think it's going to be very interesting dynamics of, how are they going to work together? Is Gabe going to kind of lean back more into the madman stuff, kind of being out of control, and Tsuji trying to keep things in the ring? Are we going to see something DQ stuff where Gabe's not, just loses it, and Tsuji's like, bro, what are you doing? You're costing us these matches.
And there's going to be a conflict somewhere, but you don't know, is it going to be a situation where it's they don't gel at first, but then they find common footing and they start to work together? Or is it they're surprisingly successful at first and then it starts deteriorating? Which way are they going to go with it? Or is it just going to be is it going to be Nagata and Suzuki, who just were oil and water the whole fucking tournament?
Yeah. But yeah, I think the semifinal format opens it up, because normally you would be look at this team and be oh yeah, they're not going to get to the finals. But the semifinal format opens it up to where these guys could get to the semifinals, be one of the top in the block, and then lose that, and then that's how you get them out of the tournament.
and last year we had the talking point about business leading up to the Dome and how houses were down a bit in the couple last quarters of the year. And that's why like Zach was so heavily involved in the tournament at the time, and that they were trying to still showcase champions, and they kind of moved away from that for a bit now. But now we're back to, you've got Tsuji as the, I keep wanting to say the global champion and possibly the future IWGP champion. So something to kind of think about there.
Yeah. So now following that, we have the House of Torture team of Evil and Don Fale. So another debut team here in the block. And Evil also has a date set at the Dome for Aaron Wolf in that big matchup. So again, also, people look at Fale and kind of see like, all right, that's kind of the weak link there. However, I think they're going to want to keep Evil strong going into the Aaron Wolf match. And they have tended to push Fale. Even we've seen this year, this guy getting never title matches. So, I mean, this could be a team that is toward the top of the block.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no denying that. Do I think that they're going to have some of the worst matches of the tournament? Yes. Am I enthused about them in this block at all? No. But you're absolutely right. Like, you can't just discount them. It would be, in fact, that would be the glory sign if Don Fale does, in fact, start laying down in this tournament and they finish with a low point percentage. That's when you're like, okay, someone's finally fucking seen the light. Like they're ready to turn over the new leaf and move on from, the bad luck Fale experiment that has been going on for, better part of a decade and a half. So, earlier, one thing I wanted when I was saying that Tsuji and Gabe Kidd, the business aspect of it, what I was alluding to is that it might make sense to have them go into a semifinal situation for the sake of bolstering those last couple nights cards from a drawing perspective.
Yeah. So yeah,
I don't have much more to say about Evil and Don Fale, by the way.
Yeah, I expect them points wise to do very well, and yeah, there'll be tons of shenanigans, and I'm sure they'll probably progress the Aaron Wolf story, and he'll probably get involved in some of these things too. But definitely expecting some of the worst matches from those guys. And then following that, another debut team, the team of Taichi and my man Satoshi Kojima. So Kojima getting the call with Tomohiro Ishii being injured.
Yeah, that is kind of shitty, honestly. I did think it was funny when J-Cast was like, thanks, Tony Khan, for ruining World Tag League. And like people took them so seriously and like we're all up in arms. And obviously it was a rage bait post, but it is unfortunate because that's one of, I think they're the best tag team in the company in terms of like just actual in-ring work. Like maybe they haven't been together that long. They don't have the accolades, but like you want to have a good fucking match. You put Ishii and Taichi in there. Like that's nice. Instead we got Kojima, and like, I love Kojima, but Kojima's not Kojima anymore. Like he's on the downside, and it sucks a little bit for Taichi. Like I'm sure they're going to go out there. They're going to probably have some good hard hitting matches, but it's like, they're not going to be exemplary, and Taichi is not going to do super well in the tournament. And it is very clear Kojima is primarily there to eat the pinfalls. Who knows? Taichi might be too. Even though Kojima's on the downside, he's still Kojima, and it doesn't matter if he can go or not. He's not going to be the only one laying down on those nights. So,
yeah, former MLW world champion. Like,
so it is kind of unfortunate. Like they'll be the we're here to have fun team,
Yeah, and it's also a little bit of throwback also with Taichi being a part of Kojima Gun 15 years ago.
Oh, that's right. You turned out Kojima. I kind of forgot. I've been talking about that on the other show, but I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. It's a reunion of sorts. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
where's Suzuki?
So where is he?
Yeah, where's Suzuki? Bring him out.
So I think Taichi and Kojima, I think they're gonna be that kind of bottom of the pack. I feel like they'll have some decent matches, but I don't expect a high point total from these guys.
I don't either.
Then up next, another debut team here of El Desperado and Tsuji Ishikawa.
This one is very interesting. Like, I don't claim to be the most knowledgeable when it comes to All Japan and, Big Japan and DDT and stuff like that. But, Shuji Ishikawa is a guy that has been around for a long, long time with a lot of success. And, he's probably, he's just the generation after Tanahashi. So he's, depending on what shape his body is in, I wouldn't imagine that he's probably much longer for the wrestling world either, but he's had world championships and, tournament wins in major companies all over Puroresu. He's held the big belt in DDT, Big Japan, and All Japan, and been part of some of the greatest tag team matches of all time. So super hard hitting dude, but he is on the downside of his run. And this might be one of those situations where it would pay to have paid more attention to backstage segments from someone like Desperado, or the ongoings from his blogs, or whatever the fuck it is that happens backstage. I don't really know, because I don't understand how this team, what the connection is, or how they came together.
Yeah, in the post-match in Gifu, Despy said he had been challenged by a ridiculously huge guy to a singles match. He turned it down and offered a tag team instead. But why Tsuji Ishikawa challenged him, I do not know. And I don't know if that's going to lead to, another like Despy produce show and they do eventually have a singles match.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, what is the payoff here? Do I love the idea that Shuji Ishikawa, as just like a random wild card, is thrown into the tournament? Yeah, that's fucking awesome. And I mean, if he can, I'm sure no matter, Father Time waits for nobody, but he's still going to be throwing bombs. He's still going to be doing power moves and all that shit. And, it is the funny thing is, like, a lot of the strong style type guys, the ones who throw the big lariats and the big strikes, they can kind of go forever as long as their body holds up. So
yeah,
it is going to be interesting to see him and Desperado in this tournament together. I also think it's interesting the fact that, like, Desperado, we've been talking a long time about whether or not he should go up to heavyweight, whether he's flirting with the limit, and he is still decidedly a junior representative in this tournament. But last year they kind of gave a bit of a push to Hiromu in a similar situation. Now, obviously Ishikawa is not, Tetsuya Naito in terms of like fan appeal within this company and this brand. So I don't anticipate the same thing happening twice, but it is interesting. Like, we're going to have the same conversation we had last year. Like, is this the stepping stone to them allowing this guy to take that step? And I wish that were the case, but at the same time, it feels like for whatever reason, they seem determined to not allow Desperado or Hiromu to make that move. And they both seem more than ready to do it.
Yeah, I mean, based off what we saw with Hiromu last year, I don't think it's a stepping stone. I mean, Hiromu won the tag league with Naito last year, had a singles match with Naito, and so you would think that would be the perfect way to transition him into a heavyweight. He wins the heavyweight tournament. He had a big match against Naito at the Dome. Like, you would think, all right, let's put him in New Japan Cup and let's have him in G1, but they didn't do that at all. And so I feel like it's a case where it's like, we don't want to bring in, Hayes and Nichols. We don't want to bring in, anybody from Tamashi, those twin guys. We don't want to bring in any outside tag team. So we got to use who we have. So I guess we'll use Despy, and then we'll find somebody for him to team up with.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, I will say this: like, if I don't know if they should win the tournament or even final necessarily, but it'd be pretty fucking cool to see them in the final play and stuff. It just keep things fresh. It's one of the most fresh and interesting things they could do in the A block is give those guys a run. What it means long term, I have no fucking clue. Like, you're probably right. This probably is just a play for them to do business in a produce show down the road. But yeah, Desperado and Shuji Ishikawa, they might be a really fucking cool team. Hard to say right now, but they might be a standout team in this block.
Yeah, and also I think the tag team division is so wide open to get some more established teams in there, and so yeah, if there is a long-term play of having Tsuji Ishikawa stick around, do some dates, and work with Despy, I think that would be very fresh and very renewing, and give Knockout Brothers a new team to work with. So I think there's a lot of positives of this team, as I think it's going to be interesting to see how they are treated. Like, is Despy as a junior going to be the pin eater, or are you going to have Shuji Ishikawa as the outsider, is the older outsider? Is he going to be the one eating the pins for the team?
It is interesting that you look at this block and there's a lot of teams thrown together, but there's not a lot of very overtly obvious pin eaters. You can tell who is the B side to the A side in the team, but there's not, for instance, let me give you an example. There's not Tanahashi teaming up with Hanare as a young lion, where Hanare is going out there and eating every single fall the entire time. This isn't really slotted that way. There's enough room here for the top guys to do a job and then the other guy to do a few as well. And depending on how parity based this tournament is booked, I mean, I don't know. They could protect a lot of people. So it is interesting. There's not a lot of team. I mean, we're going to talk about a team here in a minute that's probably going to go almost winless. But But yeah, it is interesting where you're looking at Ishikawa and Desperado and you're like, who is the guy that, I mean, it is Despy, but he is still a junior. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, moving on, second to last team here, the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, and Drilla Maloney. Another debut team here, also coming out of the War Dogs and unaffiliated union. Shingo saying that he wants this team to be called the Kita Brothers for his Kita 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 slogan there. And also these guys were feuding all year as well, had a great set of matches. So, again, going to be interesting dynamics with these guys.
Yeah, there's one of two ways it could go. And I guess you could probably say the same thing for Tsuji and Gabe, but I think there's still so much tension between Tsuji and Gabe just because of the title situation being the sticking point. Whereas with like Shingo and Drilla, they definitely still have the physical rivalry, the pride between them that doesn't subside or go away, but they don't have a trinket or a title in between them that is going to cause conflict. It's more just based on their own history. So it could be a situation where, as we've laid out with Tsuji and Kid, they just don't get along and it kind of continues. Or it could be more akin to what we saw in the Super Junior Tag League, where they just come up with like kind of weird, wacky gimmicks and these guys find a way to coexist, but it's not a perfect marriage and it's, it's hard to say. I also think it's interesting how often in these tournaments, you kind of count on the idea that maybe guys that hold titles in the tournament might set up challengers. And you've got a lot of good names over here, but there's no one really other than Tsuji that's carrying any singles gold to establish things. So I do think that Shingo and Maloney both being like perennial contenders, Maloney being the guy kind of coming up more. I'm surprised that they're not in the same block as like an ELP. Well, I guess Evil is in the block, so I guess there is still the Never title that's also, but I'm not even thinking about that just because the Aaron Wolf thing is going on.
Right.
But if these guys can coexist, they might be a cool tag team. I'm not invested in what's going on with these groups because I don't see them lasting long term.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a very fun team to watch. I mean, I can see them being one of the top teams as far as match quality in this block. But like you said, yeah, it's hard to get invested because we just don't know what they're going to do. But again, it's another team here where it's like, who's eating pins here? Like, I guess maybe Shingo because he's a little bit older on the downside. But I mean, they still pretty much protect Shingo to some point, and he's still, he's not like in world title matches all the time, but he's still like an upper mid card protected guy. And then they're elevated Drill this year. So it's like, I don't know. There's a team that's going to just kind of bulldoze their way into the semifinals just because of the spots that both of them are in.
And if you wanted to set them up against meaningful competition in the playoffs and have something booked out of that, that's also in play. The only team here that this is just me personally, the only team that I think makes sense in this entire block to go to a finals and or win the tournament is Bishamon, point blank. But because they're doing that playoff situation, you don't have to have anyone from the A block hypothetically even make it to the finals. You could have a situation where 2 finalists from the B block both make it to the finals. That's not unheard of. And there's another team other than Bishamon that's going to make it to the playoffs. I just think it's wide open. It could be almost any of these teams. The only 2 that I can literally say is not going to make it are Taichi and Kojima. And the next team we're going to talk about, Yujiro and Chase Owens, like they have no shot.
Yeah, so another House of Torture team here, Yujiro Takahashi and Chase Owens debut team. And again, this really points to like, we don't want to bring in Hayes and Nichols. We don't want to bring in the Philippe brothers. We don't want to bring in, any of these other, outside teams that we've brought in the past. But, we got to work with what we have. So we're going to use Yujiro and Chase.
I don't really have much to add there. Like, I'm not enthused about seeing them. I don't want them in the tournament. I don't think they make sense as a team. I guess it's good to have some level of House of Torture representation, but we're already having to exist and, kind of deal with Evil and Fale. And then we got another one of these teams in the same block. I don't know if that's a blessing because they're getting relegated to their one side and they're not poisoning both blocks, or if it's worse because it's compounded inside of one block. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and that match is probably going to be the worst match of the whole block, them 2 against each other.
One of them, either that or, Tanahashi might have a, this man's going to be, bumbling.
Well, that is the A block. So I think we're both pretty much in agreement that, Bishamon is going to be A1 or A2. And then, the other spot is a kind of an open field for a lot of these teams.
If you were guessing, which team do you think makes the most sense to go to the A1 or A2 spot out of this group?
So I think you should put Bishamon in the A2, just so it's not so like obvious, like, oh, these guys are going to win again, and kind of make them fight from underneath a little bit. So I think it'd be good to have them as A2, and then you open up the field to one of these other teams and have them win the block. And they could lose, and Bishamon could still get to the finals, but I think it would be cool to elevate a team by having them be the A1.
I think it's open enough to where it's like, okay, you could put any of these teams outside of the 2 that I mentioned into the playoff situation, and there'd be a reason for it and a story behind it. At the same time, I don't think any of these teams really make sense long-term as a concerted tag team, And for that reason, one of the things that you hope for out of these tournaments isn't just like what singles matches can, what programs can be built out of this, but also what tag teams can we actually see be established and elevated and move forward. I don't see that here with any of these teams personally. So then the question kind of becomes like, what makes the most sense business wise? And I'm really torn on this, but I sort of feel like Tsuji and Gabe Kidd might be the way you should go, just because they're 2 of the biggest stars. How many times do you want Tsuji losing on the way to the Dome? But then again, if they lose in a somewhat bigger spot, I don't know if that hurts Tsuji, because it's more prominent and more visible. Obviously, I doubt he'd be the one doing the job. It'd probably be Gabe. Of course, they could do an angle like you had mentioned where like things blow up at the end and, they come undone and it's not even like a clean loss sort of thing.
Or could they do what we saw last year? So, last year, Naito and Hiromu won, didn't end up having their tag match at the Dome, had their singles match. Could you have Tsuji and Gabe win? And it's like, all right, we have this future tag title shot, but because we won, I want a favor. I want a title match after you beat.
I really hope they don't do that. I remember I forgot they did that last year until you just said it. And now I'm remembering like, oh yeah, that shit sucked so bad. It was like one of the worst creative decisions of the early part of the year. Remember how confused we were about the tag team title picture going into the first part of the year?
Mm-hmm.
Like they put the title on the Bucks and then you're like, okay, they're setting up for Bucks and Naito and them, but then they put in the Jeff Cobb match. It just was all over the fucking place. Like, it didn't cohesively make sense. And then they never did get back around to doing Naito and Hiromu. And when they didn't get a title shot at the Dome, it was like, why did we fucking do this? Like,
yeah, why did you have to sit through this, Lynn?
so I really hope that's not the case. But I do think that there's an argument that you don't want Suji and Kid to eat a lot of losses. You want big stars at the top of the card going down the stretch. So business-wise, it probably makes sense. And I don't see another strong, apparent tag team. I mean, I think you can definitely put Oleg and Yano, put Evil and Fale, put Desperado and Shuji Ishikawa. I put them at the bottom of that ranking. Or even Shingo and Maloney would make sense. Any of those teams make sense, but none of them to me are guys that you're going to see as a successful tag team long-term or even make it to the finals.
Yeah, I think Suji and Gabe Kidd is probably the best pick there.
Yeah, but then again, you know, we kind of gave our thoughts about the Super Junior Tag League, and we were way off base. And isn't it funny when you like want them to do something fresh, new, and exciting? They do it, but they do it in the worst way possible. Where you're like, this isn't what we
how the torture.
This isn't what we asked for, bro. Like,
let's jump into the B block. So first team here, the Knockout Brothers, the current IWGP Tag Team Champions, Oscar and Yuto Ice.
They're the top of the fucking division, and they're in a fantastic block. And I think this is an opportunity for them to really make their mark working against the best that the company has to offer on that side of the bracket. I would say that they don't really have a strong chance of making it to the finals, but we just saw the champions win the Super Junior Tag League. It's not unheard of entirely that champions could even go to the finals or win these tag tournaments. And, yeah, there's also the fact that it's the playoffs. And so if there is the playoffs, the chances that they might get into one of those spots goes up a bit. If it were me, though, this is just me personally. If it was me booking this, they don't get into the playoffs. They do the classic Gato booking where they end up in a 3-way tie in points with the guys who are at the top, but they lose the tiebreakers. They finish at the exact same point total, so they don't look weak, but they don't make it into the semifinals. And that sets the stage for 4 fresh teams, 4 fresh matches, and Knockout Brothers are kind of waiting in the wings for whoever's next. But it depends on if you want to put them on the big stage or not. If you're wanting to put them on the big stage, you should probably put them in those playoffs.
Yeah, and also, yeah, the semifinal format does open it up for the champions to advance a little bit further. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea of them being in a semifinal, being the B1 or B2. And, yeah, I mean, if you want to push them super strong, you have them win the block, be the B1, and maybe they get upset by the A2. Like, maybe you do, like, Bishamon as the A2, you do Bishamon versus Knockout Brothers. Bishamon gets to win, and then that kind of sets up Bishamon to get a tag title shot in the future, whether they win the finals or not.
My dad just texted me, Dolph Z is back on Raw tonight. Bro, he messaged me like a few days ago, and he's like, Zack Ryder's back.
Woo.
You know it.
Oh, man.
Again, Solo for the Cena tournament.
Oh, man.
Oh, God. All right. We got some questions here.
Yeah, so Rainbow and Slam Pick says, are the Knockout Brothers part of a dream or a nightmare blunt rotation?
Well, I don't speak Japanese, so I don't know what the fuck like Yuto's going to be saying most of the time.
Bumbleclot.
Yeah, and I've never really heard Oscar say shit hardly, except for when he was a young lion. So I really don't know how to feel about that. But yeah, I smoke with them. I don't give a fuck.
Next question here from Legitimate Cream 1773.
That's an incredible name. Move over, Pussy Destroyer. Legitimate Cream is here.
They say if NJPW leans into KOB, could they be the start of a revival of the tag division? Do you think Bishamon KOB is going to be the heart of the tag scene for a while?
What do you mean, will it be? It's already happening, brother. Open your eyes. You're living in the revival. You know, FTR, nah, fuck them. This is the real revival. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a quote unquote revival of the tag division. I mean,
oh, it is.
New Japan's just never been a tag team promotion, and we just get to these points every few years where they do like they'll put together like 3 or 4 teams that are solid, and then they break up, and then we go through a drought, and then 3 or 4 teams, and then we go through a drought again. And so, yeah, this could be the start of maybe we get Knockout Brothers, Bishamon, like 2 other teams that kind of run it all through 2026. But I don't know if we're gonna get like crazy tag feuds, you know, all these like 5-star tag team matches. Like I don't think it's gonna all of a sudden put tag teams on the map, but I think it'll.
I wonder how many 5-star tag team matches have ever happened in like New Japan.
It'll be interesting to look up.
Or even, I don't even mean by like Dave standards, but I mean like highly. I could think of like I could think of some really, really good ones off the top of my head, actually. So
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the future of the division looks like. I do think it will be in a better place than it was this year, where the belt was hot potato. We have teams coming and going, people, Young Bucks are in, and Cobb's leaving, and Naito's. I
forgot they were here till we started talking tonight. Like legitimately, I didn't remember that, and then I'm like, oh shit, yeah, they're tag team champions. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they could be nominated for tag team of the year.
They only had 2 matches.
Oh my gosh. So I think Knockout Brothers definitely a strong chance of getting into the playoffs. So next team, Zack Sabre Jr. and Rei Oiwa. So this is their 2nd consecutive entry into the tournament. And again, we talked about guys who need a spot on the dome. Zack Sabre Jr., guy who was in the main event of both dome shows last year.
And won both of them.
Yeah. You got to think that there needs to be a spot for him on the card. So I think this helps their chances of probably getting into the final of this thing.
How outlandish would One Nation Radio get
oh my God.
if Zach didn't wind up on the dome at all?
Yeah, they would have a field day with that.
That'd be fucking funny. I almost kind of hope that happens now just to listen to that audio.
Or if they're like, if he's just like in the Rambo.
No, not even that. Like he has to just not be there. Like, you know what I mean? He has to be like working fucking, like some sort of
TJPW.
Yeah, he's going to be working like a tradition show or some shit the same day. Like he's in Big Japan. But, Zach is in a similar position to Bishamon in the fact that he had the title this year, big push at the top of the card. He had the title twice this calendar year, actually. And you have to wonder what is the future holding for him going into the dome. But at the same time, the difference here with him and Goto is kind of saddled with Yoshihashi. And in that case, it is just like it's a tag team. They've had a lot of success. It's a tag team act. With Oiwa, it's not. Oiwa is like a future guy that they're trying to build and maybe perhaps push. And you're wondering, is there enough juice for them to move forward? And now there's some Western fans that say yes. But up to this point, even though this team is awesome, by the way, last year they were, in my opinion, the standout, one of, or if not one of the top 2 or 3 standout teams in the World Tag League. But it always kind of felt like he's been kind of just looked over and on ice. And I don't know that they have big plans for him. So you're wondering, like, is this the time where they elevate him and saddle him up with Zach and push them as a tag team act for the time being, which I think would make some sense? Or is it a situation where it's like they're just going to wrestle really, really good, have a really good showing, and then Zach's going to fuck off and do what he does in the dome, and Oiwa will be Rambo bound probably? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, I think it was the Naga brothers called Oiwa a non-playable character. And honestly, I mean, that's how he kind of feels, especially the second half of the year. I don't feel like he's really had anything to sink his teeth into. And so, I mean, like you mentioned last year, Zach and Oiwa, awesome team, one of the top performers in ring-wise. And so Oiwa's only gotten better since then. And so I think that we talked about last week, this dome of 40,000 people, you need to be setting up things for the future. You need to get these people invested in the younger stars. So I think having Oiwa with Sabre in a tag team title match could be a great spot for him. You have him, get the fall for the team, and you get those eyeballs on Oiwa and kind of push him going forward. So I think with that, they need to get something going. And so he's a guy that if I were them, I'd be trying to find a way to spotlight on the card. And I think a tag title match could be a great spot for that.
I agree. I'm holding out on them as being a strong contender to make it to the, to do well in this tournament, make it to those playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is a pretty tough block here.
I really don't think it is, honestly. I think it's a block full of a lot of talent, and there's better tag teams, but there's less teams that I can say for sure. I think there's more let me put it this way. There are more teams in this block that I could see winning the tournament, but less teams I could see actually going to the playoffs than the A block. But the teams that would go into those playoffs, I think, have stronger chances across the board to win the whole thing, or even, face each. I really could see a situation where it's an all B block final personally.
Could happen. Yeah. So next team here, Monster Sauce, Lance Archer and Alex Zane. Their second entry, first in 2 years.
Fantastic team. I really enjoyed them the first time. They're going to have an awesome run. They're not going to make it to the playoffs. It is just not in the stars for them because they're not, they're outsiders. They're affiliated with New Japan, and they're over and well known, and they do awesome, but they're just not like the homegrown guys that are going to get that push. But they're going to have an awesome tournament.
Yeah, they're going to be super fun to watch. They're going to work really hard, and yeah, I think they're going to be a highlight of this block. But yeah, I don't see them getting into the semifinals. I think they'll probably maybe play spoiler for some guys towards the stretch there. But yeah, they'll be fun to watch. Then next up, another debuting team. We have the Hiroshi Tanahashi and El Phantasmo. So we've seen these guys teaming up throughout the second half of the year, and them talking about wanting to team together in World Tag League. They had the whole TV title match that kind of led to them having more respect and wanting to team up together. So that's how we got this team here, and can't believe this man Tanahashi is going to do this tag league.
Well, he always does tag league, even though he's not primarily a tag wrestler. And in most years, he's in some sort of joke tag team with a Young Lion or
Yano.
Right now, Yano. I'm covering the years right now where he was in the midst of his top run in New Japan, but every year he was in the tag league with Captain New Japan, and they were eating all losses every single year. So there is that to think about. But it is an interesting team for this reason. How many losses can Tanahashi realistically take heading into the Tokyo Dome? And does it matter? I don't know. It's World Tag League. How many people will be watching this? I don't know, but you still have to think of the kayfabe. They want to keep him strong heading into what is presumably the main event of the Tokyo Dome. And then you've got him teamed up with ELP, which if Tanahashi wasn't about to retire in the next month or so, I could see him being the pin eater at this junction of his career. But because he's got that big date, I can't see him doing too many jobs. And then in another case, you could say, well, ELP could be there to eat the pins, and maybe that is what's going to happen. But he's the television champion. And how much are they going to disrespect him as the champion to have them lose a lot? Could there maybe potentially be a case based on both of their slotting and presumably the fact that they're both probably going to have some sort of level of singles match in the Dome? I'm assuming that they go far and do well in the tournament, especially since it's Tanahashi's last tournament.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that could sneak into a semifinal spot because you could have Tanahashi doing inside cradles. You'll have ELP pinning people. So, yeah, I think, with all those points you made, they could easily slide into a B2 spot and potentially get to the finals.
I don't think this is a team that could win. And one thing I'm really keeping my eyes open for here is the fact, again, ELP is the TV champion. Nothing's on the books for him right now. So I am wondering if it's a situation where someone in this block could be a future challenger, or I alluded to this earlier and I didn't know how it would work out, but now that we're talking about it, what if they do get to the playoffs just based on the strength of, the kayfabe right now, and then they do lose to, like, say, what was the other team in the A block that I was thinking of? Like Maloney and Drilla. Or I'm sorry.
Maloney and Shingo.
It's the same person. Maloney and Shingo. Like, that could be a potential. You could send them into the semifinals to set up a TV title match with whoever it is from the other block you wanted. So there's ways to get there if that's what you're looking to do. And it is something to keep your eyes peeled for.
Yeah, and if ELP does take a lot of losses in the block, I guess that's another title you could do a multi-man match with. You could have him eat 3 losses. There you go, 4-way TV title match.
It's also a title, since we seem to be so keen right now on consolidation, which that's something I know a lot about coming from the finance world. I help people consolidate retirement accounts all the time. Why don't we just go ahead and just fucking consolidate the shit out of that title? You know what I'm saying? Like, I would love to live in a world where I've enjoyed the TV title for what it is. I've enjoyed the strong title for what that was different times, but like, let's get rid of the 3 open weight titles, because we do have 3 right now, and just fold all that shit into the never title.
Yeah, it'd be great. I'd be down with that.
Or how about this? How about, since we're getting rid of the global, I'm just saying shit that we've said a million times that's never going to actually happen. But it's like, you're getting rid of the global title. You don't have a strong secondary title. And we went through that phase during the pandemic where the IC was gone and they didn't know which secondary belt was going to play the de facto number 2 role. Well, I think it's very simple. You take the strong belt, you fold it, as well as the TV title. You fold both of those into the never title, but you get rid of the never title. I think you keep the lineage, but maybe you transform it, you change the name, and it's now the IWGP
Open Weight
Championship.
Yeah.
Or IWGP Openweight Triple Crown. You can call it Triple Crown. Whatever the fuck you want to do. But I think it would answer a question about what is the secondary title in this company. And if the global is in fact going away, that would create a strong argument for a consolidated, better than the sum of its parts title, you know?
Yeah, I think that would definitely help elevate the title more. And then, you get rid of those other 2 titles and it would, make the title in a top spot. And I think you can do really big matches, especially leaning into the open weight stuff and have, a spot for Hiromu and Despy to transition into heavyweight.
It would streamline things. You could actually have a real open weight title, and it's not like, oh, it's the never style, or, oh, it's the, it's the US title. It's to be defended abroad. It's like, it's the open weight belt. It's the one that's defended and fought for by anyone from any weight class. It's not the IWGP. It's not the world title. It doesn't have that designation, but it is a strong secondary belt that you could easily create. And if anyone from the company is fucking listening, and we know you guys do, we hear about it, take notes. We're giving you this shit for free. You don't even have to pay us. That doesn't matter. I would just do it. It would be great.
Yeah. Well, another debut team, Shota Umino and Yuya Uemura. So we've been seeing them team last few months. They had a tag title defense or tag title challenge against the Knockout Brothers and lost there. But continuing the team, entering the tournament here. And again, Umino kind of in a spot with Zach. He was in the Dome main event last year and not booked right now, so you gotta think he's going to be wanting to get to a big win here to get a rematch with Knockout Brothers and get on the Dome.
There's one of two ways you need to go with this, and I think it's fairly cut and dry. You either commit to Umino and Uemura as a real true blue Hantai tag team that you're going to push, you're going to go with, and you're going to devote real attention to, right? Push those guys. I'm not saying they need to win the titles. I'm not saying they need to win the tournament per se, although those would both probably be nice and would happen somewhere down the line. But you go with them. You put them in the semifinals, and like this is a settled thing. Like, we're a real tag team moving forward. Or you go the opposite way, and the fact that both of these guys are positioned as future aces of the company, and they both have their own individual egos and singles aspirations, it all boils over. They're not able to get on the same page the way we thought they were going to earlier in the year. And this is going to lead to a conflict of some sorts between them. And these are two of the young guys that we are really wondering where are they on the Dome? We haven't figured it out. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them in a singles match at the Dome. We've done something similar to that in years past. That could be a really good showcase. The worst case scenario, though, is you have them do fairly well. Nothing interesting happens. And they're still in this ambiguous place, and they do good in the points total. They even maybe get to the semifinals, but there's just nothing firm on paper committing them to anything. And then we leave the tournament more confused about them than we were when we went in, and there's nothing solid for the Tokyo Dome any which way. You know, that's the worst case scenario. They need to go one of the other two ways: feud, personal rivalry, or we're a real team. That's it.
Yeah, I think either of those works. I think is whatever you need to do to get them on the Dome. And we saw kind of a similar story with obviously Narita turning on Umino a couple of years ago and leading to their matchup. And so I don't think you necessarily need to turn one of them heel. It just could be like, just the egos get in the way. They both want to be the ace, and things blow up. It gets personal, and you do a big personal singles match with them at the Dome. But then again, I think I've enjoyed them as a tag team, and Shota Umino is someone who excels in a tag team role.
Yeah.
And so I think it might be good to have them in the tag title match this year while they're still rebuilding and honing their characters.
I agree.
Then another debut team here, David Finlay and Hiromu Takahashi. So again, another team being birthed out of the War Dog unaffiliated union.
So a lot of similar things I could say about this team that I said in the A block about Kid and Tsuji and about Maloney and Shingo. But there's also some similarities about things that I said concerning Desperado and Shuji Ishikawa. And this is kind of the middle ground of all those things. With that being said, without treading over all the same talking points about LIJ and Bullet Club, David Finlay is the leader of his faction. He's a guy that is always in play at the top of tournaments and blocks and title pictures and has held top titles and is a main eventer. Even if he's not the tip top guy, he's in that rotation. And then, Hiromu is like the junior ace to some extent, or had been for a long time. And he's still considered one of the tip top stars there. He won this tournament last year, but there's still the goofiness to attribute to the whole thing of like, can we trust them to push these guys into a meaningful spot? Do we even want them to do that? Because on the one hand, we are wondering, what the fuck is David Finlay doing for the Dome? What the fuck is Hiromu doing for the Dome? These are big stars. But again, because I can't invest into this story per se, do I want them in a playoff spot over guys that I think really need the push, like KOB, like Oiwa, like Umino and Uemura? Like, that right there is 6 guys that all really kind of need the rub and need the slotting going into the Dome. Do we want to sacrifice them at the altar of, can they coexist?
Yeah. Very interesting team here. I could also, kind of like we mentioned with Umino and Yuya, I think there is a potential where maybe you can do a Finley Hiromu match at the Dome with things not working out between them. I know you kind of predicted like New Year's Dash would be when they blow up, but maybe this was, Finley's long play all along and things don't work out. And then it just gets to, Finley versus Hiromu at the Dome just for something for them to do.
Unless the only way I feel like that really is a draw is the surprise return of Tetsuya Naito. If and I'm not even saying sign full time back to the company, although that's always on the table. Guys always do come back, especially when he's not that old. But maybe that's what this, maybe that is what this feud is actually about. Is they're setting the stage not only for Tsuji's run at the top, but we want someone for Gabe Kidd and David Finlay to work with, and Naito's looking for an opponent. We want to make a big splash. So, maybe that's what they're gearing up for, possibly. I'm just kind of speculating, but
yeah, I mean, maybe.
We didn't talk about this last week. It is one of the main talking points we should have addressed, and we just didn't. Naito was on the docket to be one of the potential opponents for Tanahashi. He wasn't addressed directly by the company, but he had individuals within the company, they sent out feelers to him about would he be open to fulfilling that role. Mm-hmm. And he had said yes. And he told them he had interest, and he cleared dates to be the guy. And then the official, opportunity didn't come his way. And we didn't mention that last week, but I do think it's interesting where it's he was ready to do that. What are the chances that, since he has sent out interest to the company, that they haven't sent back something and they're like, okay, we're not doing the Tanahashi thing, but here's what we have for you.
Yeah, maybe it's definitely a possibility. And I think that would be also a huge, pop in the Dome. And especially if you go the Finlay versus Hiromu route and Finlay wins, and then you have the War Dogs jumping Hiromu, and then Naito comes out and helps, clear the ring, and then you do something with them at Dash, something like that. So that could be cool. That could happen. But yeah, I don't really want to see these guys if they're not gonna, I guess, go all the way and do something with them. I don't know if I'd want them getting deep into the tournament. I feel even like you mentioned, even a semi-final spot for these guys, kind of a waste with some of the other teams in here.
Well, part of my feelings on it are okay, let's say we are right. Okay, Bishamon goes through. And then Tsuji and Kid is the other team that goes through. Then there's no way I would want to see David Finlay and Hiromu in that spot, because it's do you want this fake faction that's only going to be together for a few months or whatever the fuck it's going to be? Who knows? Maybe they'll do something really cool and exciting and split everything up and tell new stories. I don't know. But is that what we want? We want two teams from this hodgepodge group to be at the top of the playoffs. That, even though it's good talent, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me narratively.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Because I do think that they're very much in play. Let's say they do make it to the playoffs. In that event, I don't think Kid and Tsuji should go through. Who do you think that they would actually put through in that situation? Because I'm feeling like that would automatically mean you're getting Evil and Don Fale somewhere in those playoffs.
Yeah, man.
Unless you're a believer that Oleg Boltin and Toru Yano, as because Yano is a tag team specialist, Boltin is a guy they're trying to push. Unless you want to give them the rub and put them through, as a Hantai representative. In the scenario we're talking about, where it is Hiromu and Finlay, you don't want to put in Shingo and Drilla. You don't want to put in Tsuji and Kid.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the other three teams at the bottom don't make sense.
Yeah, and also there's a history of Evil and Finlay this year.
Evil and Fale or Oleg Boltin and Yano become the de facto leaders in that situation, because I don't count on them putting Taichi and Kojima or Despy and Shuji or the other House of Torture team. So I almost am rooting against the idea that team gets in, because I feel like if they get in, it equals worse booking potential.
Yeah, there could be some bad stuff to come with that. So let's see who.
And we still have to count on, there was so much haha funny gaga with,
Hiromu and Gato.
Is this going to be I feel like there will be an element of a continuation of that story because Gato is, Finley's, handler, manager, confidant, whatever you want to say. But maybe Finley's going to come in and he's like, I'm not rocking with the bullshit. Like, how he can be like, he's not.
Yeah.
I still think this whole entire thing with them teaming together is so out of character for him. He's the one dude out of that whole group who's just never like fucked with any of them. And so he's like, all right, y'all are good.
Yeah, I'll shake your hand.
I still don't get it.
Yeah, very weird. Well, second to last team here in the B block, Great Okan and Callum Newman from the United Empire. So we've been seeing Newman leaning more heelish, attacking people after the bell. Very, heelish, dickish promos in the back, talking about, United Empire rebuilding it brick by brick and taking bricks and bashing people in the face with it. And just really leaning into this more arrogant heel character. And Great Okan has been eating a lot of losses, and so he's looking to be on the rebound as well. So I think this is a team, if they're going to, continue to lead into Newman's new presentation and want to rebuild United Empire, this is a good team here that could potentially get to the semifinals. Could be.
Okan's had success in this tournament before. He's won the tag team titles many times in the past. Callum is a guy that they've seen as the future, in the past, the way they've pushed him in the G1, given him a world title shot, but he's sort of, to a certain extent, stagnated. It's been a while since we'd seen him until the most recent tour, but there is this new edge, this new, kind of mean streak in him. And the question begs to be asked, what the fuck is happening with United Empire? Are we going to do anything with them or not? And I guess you even could have them lose here in this tournament and continue the downfall of United Empire. But it's like, how fucking far do they have to fall before you just throw in the towel on this shit? I don't count on them. Could they be in the playoffs? Sure. In fact, I'll take back what I said earlier. I actually think almost every single team in this block does have a legitimate chance to be in the playoffs. Surprisingly, the only one that I say no to is Monster Sauce. And you know what? Even they could get into the playoffs. They just aren't going to final or win the tournament. But even they have a good shot at getting to this is a very, very, very competitive B block. For that reason, Callum Newman is like the least, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. I don't want to diminish what he sacrifices as a wrestler. This is more of a kayfabe statement. He's the least deserving of the young guys to get the push because he hasn't been around or accomplished as much as Oiwa or Umino or Uemura, or even in their short time being here, the Knockout Brothers. Those are all people that are slotted and are expected to have meaningful spots on the Tokyo Dome card. I think Callum Newman has all the talent in the world, but he just hasn't been around as much lately. He hasn't progressed as much as those guys. And I don't know, maybe if you are invested in like what's going to happen with United Empire, but I'd just like the strong title. I'd like to see them kind of go by the wayside and figure out something new to do with that talent.
Yeah. But I think this is a good platform that if you want to do something with Newman and Okan and kind of do something in that Empire, here's a chance to, really kind of revamp them, maybe lean more into that new character of Newman and get them into semifinals or finals. Or, I mean, you could have, Newman's talking about rebuilding, maybe he boots Okan out the group and he gets like some new heater guy that's part of their act that you go with him and help him get over.
Yeah, I don't know where they go with it. I wonder if it is a creative direction where they're like, all right, here's what we've got planned for you. Here's what we see and here's what we're doing. Or if it's just him being like, they're not giving me shit, so I'm just going to, make chicken salad out of chicken shit, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning towards the latter personally. It is interesting. You have a lot of really great raw material for the B block specifically. There's good in the A block, but really in the B block, there are so many fantastic stories and directions you can take all of this. but you can't do all of it at the same time unless Gato dusts off unless he puts in a sensu bean, and, takes one of those limitless pills and gets back his mojo. I don't see how he's going to be able to weave together all of the fantastic narratives that could hypothetically exist in this B block in a compelling and satisfying way.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult, which means I think some stories will be told and other stories that are right there, they're probably going to be left by the wayside and just not really approached.
Yeah. Then the last team here from the House of Torture, Ren, Narita, and Sanada, another debut team.
That is a team, much like Fale and Evil, you just really can't totally discount from potentially going far. Ren Narita challenged for the title recently. Sanada, was champion a couple years ago. He's been at the top. And if you want to, if there is any sort of like really standout bad guy team in this block, it is them. Now, I'm not saying you have to have a heel advance in these tournaments, but oftentimes they do like to have a babyface and a heel from each block go through, and they're at least going to have, at minimum, one heel team from one of those two blocks go through. So it is sort of a pick your poison situation, unless you just count Knockout Brothers, if they make it in and you just count them as like that negative force. But if it's not them.
But yeah, they've been leaning more tweener, especially with the whole War Dog Alliance. So if you want that 100% heel team, I think you have to go with Narita and Sanada. And we know they love putting House of Torture in semi-main event spots and having you tease that they're going to win and they lose. And except for
either them or Evil and Fale.
Yeah.
They have a shot to make it into that shit in a way that I don't think people are necessarily counting on. I'm not necessarily hoping for that, although I think you could do worse in terms of House of Torture tag teams than Narita Sanada. That's probably, of all the guys in that group, that's probably the best tag team you could probably envision, depending on how they choose to work the matches. I'm kind of hoping Zack and Oi would just turn a new leaf and just become heels, just outright fucking heels. And then we don't have to worry. And then it's like, okay, we're good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So what, do you have a landing spot for your top two teams from B block?
No, man, I don't know. Okay. I'll say this. I don't think Knockout Brothers are making it in. So I'm going to count on,
I think I'm going to go.
I think I'm going
Zack Oiwa, Zack and Oiwa, and Umino and Yuya.
I was leaning that way, but I kind of think they're going to put in Ren Narita and Sanada.
Yeah.
I do. I kind of think that's where we're going. So maybe I'm just way off base here. And I'm not really great at predicting these tag tournaments anyways, but yeah, I'm going to go Umina and Yumura. And it is so tough. This is tough. I like what you're saying, Zack and Oiwa, because that's like, I will stick with you. I will say Zack and Oiwa just because it's like Zack was champion. He's been at the top of the card. He's a guy that they need to do something with. Unless they figure out, who knows? Unless he like just beats El Phantasmo and he winds up challenging for the TV title again.
Which he could easily do.
Could easily happen. Okay, well then, all right. So I think we've got the same teams. How do we see it playing out?
So I don't know, I keep thinking back to Zack and Goto kind of being the centerpiece of this year and potentially doing Bishamon versus Zack and Oiwa to kind of be the next
Zack
chapter.
And Oiwa at the top of the card?
Yeah, so you have Zack and Oiwa go through somehow. And so, yeah, Zack and Oiwa versus Bishamon at the finals.
Oh, okay. So not in the playoffs, in the finals.
Yeah. Because a lot of the year has been centered around Goto and Zack. They're world title matches. So if you have the two top draws in there, the two former world champions, again in the main event spot, I think that also has a great drawing potential, and then you kind of continue that story of Goto and Zack.
I'm going to go a different way.
Okay.
Umino and Uemura versus Kid and Tsuji, and Umino and Uemura win. And then you get Zack and Oiwa versus Bishamon, and Zack and Oiwa, TMDK, win. And you get an all B block final. You get Umino and Uemura versus Zack and Oiwa, and that's that they'll have already faced in the tournament, and that will probably be one of the best final matches you could possibly do in the tournament. And depending on how things landed, that could be a really fantastic three-way with them and Naka Brothers.
Yeah.
So sorry, Bishamon, fuck yeah. That's what's happening.
A couple other questions here. Rambo Sandpig says, do you expect any of the War Dogs / unaffiliated Amalgam teams to blow up in order to further some kind of story there leading to the Dome?
There's 3 of them, so the odds go up. But I'm holding out hope on the idea that, I think they might still do something at the Dome together, but I think they hold true to give you that sense of, we're not a fake group, we're real, and here is our shining Dome moment, and then the next day it breaks up into your stash. That's still my theory.
Yeah, could happen, but with there being so many guys that need to be booked on the Dome, I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of those leads to a singles match. Then Les Commission 7252 says, since it was rebranded in 2012 as World Tag League, who has been your favorite and least tag league winners? Well,
it's not like I watched the World Tag League every year since 2012. I can go look at the winners, and
that's what I'm gonna do. Pull up. I don't even remember who won this thing since we've been doing this.
Well, I kind of do.
Obviously, Bishamon's won 3 of them.
So in 2012, you had Goto and Carl Anderson, part of Hantai, or maybe that was Chaos. I can't remember. 2013 was Guns and Gallows, Bullet Club. 2014 was Goto and Shibata. 2015 was Makabe and Hanma, and then they ran it back in 2016. 2017 and 2018 were LIJ, Evil, and Sonata. 2019 was Finjuice. 2020 was GOD. 2021, 2022, and 2023 were Bishamon. And then last year you had Naito and Hiromu. Those are all really good tag teams. I will tell you, from what I recall, the 2013 tag league, I was never high on Guns and Gallows. Not even 2013 Guns and Gallows is a far cry from super duper lazy Guns and Gallows that we saw all these years later. Not the same guys, but this was right in the throes of peak Bullet Club shenanigans, bullshit, cheating. Right after it had just started in May, and they were pretty underhanded. It was not that far off from what House of Torture does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for that reason, I was never high on Guns and Gallows, even at their top prime. Like Goto and Carl Anderson, that was a fantastic tag team, but Guns and Gallows, not that. I would have to say that's my least favorite personally.
Yeah, I didn't watch the World Tag League in 2013, but looking at the teams here, Guns and Gallows would probably be a top one there. Favorite, probably Bishamon.
Bishamon's really fantastic. I think for me, it's really a close one between Goto and Shibata and Makabe and Hanma, just because of the feel good stories that surrounded those wins, especially with Hanma coming full circle and being I'm not a loser.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I love Bishamon. Bishamon probably is the correct answer, but I don't know. A lot of the winners from all these different years, I've not been I'm not a GOD stan. I don't love I didn't love Evil and Sonata. I wasn't a Finn Juice guy. Like, oftentimes the teams I wanted winning these tournaments don't win these tournaments. So
yeah. Next question from Def Triangle 720. Do you think Despy and Hiromu have anything left to do in the junior division?
I almost said something really, really derogatory, but this isn't tunnel talk, so I'm not going to go down that route. I don't know. No. Win the J Crown like they're Mercedes Moné, hold 10 belts with their arms wide open.
Yeah, I think, we've said it over and over again. It's time to move these guys up to heavyweight and utilize their star power when you're a company looking for stars and you have two right there that you could elevate and do something with. So yeah, I don't think there's anything left for them to do. And if I were them, I would be moving them up to heavyweight. Then that dude named Menace, who are the dark horse teams in World Tag League?
I think in B Block, the biggest dark horse that maybe people are not counting on, who I think will go far, could be Narita Sonata.
Okay.
And I think Shingo and Drilla is that other team in the A Block that I know people know they're good and everything, but I don't know if people are counting on them to like go far. And I could maybe see them, being in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Despy and Tsuji Ishikawa could be another dark horse team.
It'd be cool. It'd be really cool. We touched on it, but Tanahashi and ELP could really be a dark horse team.
Yeah.
I'll take us through these World Tag League nights. So we've got several nights coming up over the next week, nights 1, 2, and 3. I see there's no dates on these, Jeremy. No big deal though. Night 1 in Cork and Hall, we've got Monster Sauce as well as Zane J taking on the House of Torture team of Narita, Sonata, and Kanemaru. United Empire team of Newman, Okan, JAY versus TMDK's Jackson, Oiwa, and ZSJ. Third match of the night, ELP, Tanahashi, and Murashima take on Shomakato, Umino, and Uemura. Fourth matchup of the night, we have the Knockout Brothers along with Daiki Nagai. That is a cool team. Taking on the Bull Club War Dogs, Dave Finley, Gato, and Hiromu. So interfactional turmoil right there. And then in the block action, we have A block action as Desperado and Shuji Ishikawa take on Oleg and Yano. Sixth match of the night, House of Tortures, Don Fale and Evil take on the House of Tortures, Owens and Yujiro. That's always fun.
Yuck.
Semi-main event, you got Kojima and Taichi versus Bishamon. And then in your main event, you've got Drilla Maloney and Shingo Takagi versus Gabe and Tsuji. So once again, the unaffiliated War Dogs teams explode. Night 2 from Chichi Bunomiya Memorial Gymnasium. You have Bishamon and Zane J versus House of Tortures, Owens, Kanemaru, and Yujiro. Katsuya Murashima, Oleg Bolton, and Yano taking on Yasuda, Kojima, and Taichi. Third match, Despy, Shomakato, and Ishikawa take on Nagai, Maloney, and Shingo. Fourth match of the night, you've got Gabe Kidd, Geto, and Tsuji taking on the House of Tortures, Togo, Fale, and Evil. In block action, you have Monster Sauce taking on Narita and Sonata of House of Torture. Sixth match of the night, you got United Empires, Newman, and GOK taking on the TMDK team of Oiwa and ZSJ. Semi-main event, you have ELP and Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Umino and Yamura. And then in the main event, you've got Finley and Hiromu versus the Knockout Brothers.
That's going to be interesting.
That's a very, very interesting one. And it is kind of telling that they've got Finley and Hiromu at the top on that first night. I think it's also telling that they've got Shingo and Gabe Kidd at the top on the first night as well. Night 3 from Machida Gymnasium, Monster Sauce and Zane J versus United Empire, Newman, Okan, and JAY. Second match of the night, ELP and Tana, along with Jado versus the War Dogs, Finley, Gato, and then Hiromu. The Knockout Brothers, Oscar and Yuto Ice, and Daiki Nagai versus House of Tortures, Narita, Sonata, and Kanemaru. Fourth match of the night, Kato, Umino, Uemura versus Team Decay's Hartley, Oiwa, and ZSJ. And then to close out the night, we have A block action as Bishamon takes on the House of Tortures, Owens and Yujiro. Sixth match of the night, Kojima and Taichi versus Bolton and Yano. Semi-main event, you got Despe and Shuji Ishikawa taking on Drilla Maloney and Shingo. And in your main event, you got Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji versus Don Fale and Evil. Once again, Kidd and Tsuji at the top of the card. We probably should have looked at where everyone was slotted, and that might have also given us some insight. But we kicked it old school. We didn't even cheat and look at the final nights or any of that shit. We probably should have done that.
I mean, we still can. Let's see. I could try and pull it up real quick.
I personally don't care.
Okay. So let's see. Well, night 15, that's going to be the semifinal night. Night 13 is the last A block night. On that night, you got Drilla and Shingo versus Bishamon. Kojima and Taichi versus Kid and Tsuji. Despi and Ishikawa versus Chase and Yujiro. Bolton and Yano versus Fale and Evil.
Because I don't see it in front of me and it's just audio. It's kind of like I didn't capture anything but am I missing out on something? Was there anything that stood out to you?
To me, Bishamon versus Drilla and Shingo screams winner advances. Then I could see Oleg and Yano either upsetting Evil and Fale or Evil and Fale beating them to advance. Gabe and Tsuji are against Kojima and Taichi. So you would think they would win that, but to me that screams like spoiler.
Could be that. There's also situations where it's like guys get through on points and you just don't know. I mean, we saw like Zach just qualify for the playoffs in the G1 way before we ever even got to the finals, and something like that could also happen. So it's hard to say it's not like in the past where it's more clear cuts, like, the winner of A versus the winner of B, because there's more variables here at this point.
Yeah. Then the last B block night looks like we got ELP and Tanahashi versus Narita and Sonata. That kind of screams winning you're in. Finley and Hiromu versus Newman and Ocon. Monster Sauce versus Zack and Oiwa. And then Umino and Yuya versus Knockout Brothers.
And see, that block is so stacked, it's hard to see any of those matches being definitively more important than another one. It's tough.
Well, I see Shota and Yuya beating Knockout Brothers since they already lost to them.
I'm kind of counting on something like that happening, like teams beat them and enable themselves to challenge for the title, even if they don't win the tournament or, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I kind of think that's perhaps how we get to a multi-man match in the Dome.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for World Tag League preview. Only one news item here, and that's Los Hermanos Chavez, Angel de Oro, and Nebula Roja defeating TJP and Templario for the NJPW Strong Tag Team titles.
Yeah. Big news out of Mexico.
Well, we have some questions here, and then we'll wrap the show up. From Front of Show, Rich Latta says, do you guys have any thoughts on the Observer Hall of Fame? So the Hall of Fame issue did come out this past Friday with several names making it to the Hall of Fame. Trying to pull up the list here. So let's see. So we had going into the Hall of Fame, Spiros Arion, Grant Hamada, Darrell Dixon, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Sabu, and Bobby Bruns.
Yeah, I'm looking at I told him to send me the results and I would take a look at it and see how I felt about things and kind of get back to him. But I don't know. I guess I should be more of a Hall of Fame guy just because I do care a lot about the history of pro wrestling and everything like that. But I don't get a ballot. I've never voted. And when I look at this stuff, there are so many legendary names. I think that's the thing, is like, you can always make an argument for the candidacy of almost anybody who's on the bracket or the ballot in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's really a question of like, who is deserving based on what criteria, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know. I know that there are fans that are very upset in a more modern sense about some of the more modern names that either did get in or didn't get as much support as other names.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it and I'm like, fuck, like Fujiwara is not in the Hall of Fame. That's crazy. El Dandy's not. That's kind of crazy to me. El Hijo del Santo and Octagon didn't get a lot of support. That's kind of like, there are just names here where I'm just like, fuck, that's really crazy to like, Sputnik Monroe. He actually got a lot of votes, but, how many do you need to get in for the percentage? You need 60.
Yeah, I think it's so by region. So US and Canada modern, you needed, 274 votes. US.
But what's the percentage? You need 60?
Yeah, I think it needs to be above 60.
Well, Hayabusa and Junkyard Dog both came very, very close, and they're both up quite a bit from where they were, so they'll probably get in pretty soon.
Yeah. Because Brun, Sabu, they're in the 60 range, and then everybody else 70 range. So yeah, so over 60%. So yeah, they were both at 58.9, 58.6. So yeah, they just needed like four votes each, and they would have gone in this year.
Yeah. I will say this, and this might make some people angry, but like, I saw people upset about the lack of support for Mercedes Moné at this point in time to get into the Hall of Fame. And I'm not saying I don't think she's a Hall of Famer. I also think that there is an actual legitimate argument that might need to be made for having a women's only section to the Hall of Fame itself, much in the same way how there exists one for just tag teams. And the reason I say that is mainly because of how maligned women's wrestling was from a promotional standpoint for so many years, that the barrier for entry for almost any woman who's not like, say, Bull Nakano is like so almost insurmountable, like for the longest time, the only women that were getting in were like the tip top Joshis during either the era of like the Crush Gals or the era of like 90s, All Japan women's. And so it is a very, very hard threshold. If you're judging a Hulk Hogan against a Trish Stratus, those are just two totally, do you know what I mean? Like they're just not the same. And if you want to make it that, if you just want to say like, these are our thresholds, you either were, one of the best workers in the world or someone that influenced everybody forever or drew the most money, but women are almost never, ever historically ever put in a spot to draw the most money. And there's so many parameters that have been placed on them to prevent them from basically getting to a certain level. It is a barrier of entry that they almost never will get in, most of them. I don't want to say like you should lower the standards to let everybody in, but I also think that there should be some sort of middle ground there personally. I've always sort of felt that way. But I do think, I don't know, man. I was looking at the list of women that were all listed above her, and I honestly was like, I could see those arguments all kind of playing out and making sense personally. Like, there's no way in a million years I would vote Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné right now over a June Byers. It just wouldn't fucking happen, because the fact June Byers isn't in the Hall of Fame is so mind-boggling and perplexing. She probably should have been named as part of the inaugural class when Dave was just throwing everybody in willy-nilly when he first started it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, people's, argument for that. But I'm like, there is still plenty of time to get Mercedes in. I mean, she's doing
plenty.
A lot of great work right now. Obviously, the whole, belt collector gimmick and getting all these titles and having great matches and being in big spots. So, I mean, I think her time is going to come. I think there's some other more egregious stuff than just her that needs people's attention.
What sticks out to you as being something that is, namely egregious that you can think of?
For me, I think Jon Moxley.
Jon Moxley is kind of crazy, just considering the business and all the Wrestler of the Year awards and stuff he's won.
Right, yeah. This is the Observer Awards. He's a 2-time Observer Wrestler of the Year winner, and he's, struggling to get votes here. He's, in the 30 percentile, 32%. It's like, what are we doing here? This is a guy that, catalyst the movement. He was one of the top stars in AEW starting, did, the New Japan thing, had the G1. Like, there's so much, I think, that lends credibility to Moxley, and like how many times like he saved AEW when he was supposed to be on vacation and people were getting hurt or being stupid, and like him coming in and like really being the focal point of that company for so many parts of the company's history, and it being the number 2 company in the world. I mean, I think there's a lot of weight there for Moxley, and it's very surprising that he's still so low on the ballot.
Well, it's becoming a very interesting thing in like the modern cases, because you've got so many guys that are WWE wrestlers who you can argue against their inclusion based off of the fact that they're backed by this giant corporate monster that enables them automatic, platform. And how much of that can you attribute to that individual as a difference maker when, the titles don't mean shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like Edge isn't in this and he's on that ballot, and it's like, he won that title so many times. He drew so many big houses, blah, blah, blah,
several
blah,
main events. Yeah.
Randy Orton's in the same case, but they're both guys that were just like right place, right time. How much of that can you really attribute to them? And then the argument really has to be either they really stand out in a business sense or they really, really stand out in a work sense, because very rarely is there anyone coming out of WWE who just like influences the industry, and that's the other parameter. So there is almost a barrier of entry for those guys, like anyone who came up during the post Cena era, where it's like they're just kind of beholden to the machine. But then there's the other side of the coin where it's like, if a guy wasn't in WWE and they're making waves in AEW or on the indies, it's not seen as the top level. Mm-hmm. The business that they've done is not of the same, the numbers themselves are not always the same, seen as being the same like caliber in terms of like drawing ability, in terms of like visibility, influence. How are you going to influence the entire industry when you're in the secondary promotion? And then the work, you have a lot of people voting that are not necessarily like, I think the work is the thing that stands out for guys from other regions and things like that, where it's like, that's the difference maker. And yeah, Moxley's a fantastic worker, but that's not the thing that everyone thinks of first and foremost when they talk about him. They think more about the character, they think about the promos, and they think about, the
death matches,
the death matches and the blood and guts. And they don't put the stuff that you've mentioned at the forefront, and it's almost working against him. I also wonder, did he win those awards? Not to take anything away from him, but did he win either of them or both of them during like pandemic era? Because that also might play something into it.
I think the first one he won was pandemic era, but I think the second one was we're out of the pandemic, I think, for the second one.
But the reality is that's neither here nor there. Nobody who has ever won that award has not made it into the Hall of Fame, and nobody that has won it multiple times hasn't like gone in early. So it is very crazy. But at the same time, the Hall of Fame awards are not the same voters as who votes on the year-end awards.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. Okay,
I think there is some overlap, but yeah. I think it's mostly, you know, the year-end awards are voted on by subscribers.
Yeah.
And the Hall of Fame, you have to have a ballot, and that's a lot of wrestlers and personalities and people in the industry.
Reporters,
there are some, it's not the same audience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's so many names that I could look at here, and you know, obviously we don't do the same kind of job. If you want like a really full breakdown of everything related to this, I think the audio that Voices of Wrestling puts out is some of the most insightful and, you know, really thorough stuff that's out there. But I think in a modern sense, those are like the two names that probably stand out to people as being like, yeah, why the fuck didn't Sasha get more than 10? And why isn't Jon Moxley like closer to potentially winning this than, you know, than he should be?
Yeah. And then as far as the people that got in, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense for CM Punk and Cody. I think that they're obviously proven strong abilities at different points of their careers, proven in ring.
I'm kind of shocked about Spiros Arion getting 78% of the vote. He went up from 46.4. Now again, I really like wrestling history. I don't know everything about everybody, but like I think of Spiros Arion as being like this MSG guy that drew, you know, drawing off of the Greek fan base and having those great feuds with like Bob Backlund and Bruno and all that. But I don't know. Maybe I probably don't know enough history to vote authoritatively about it, but I've just never thought of Spiros Arion as being, maybe I need to do some research, but I've never thought of him as being like number one top of the ballot guy for a Hall of Fame for wrestling. I'm a little surprised by that. I think Grant Hamada makes a lot of sense given his how influential he was, and I think the fact he just passed, you know.
Yeah, got the death bump.
I think the Cody Rhodes thing makes sense. I think the CM Punk one is a little iffy. Like, I don't know. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that it only is happening now after this run in WWE, and I don't know what could have possibly occurred. But then again, you know what? The truth of the matter is I was sent over an example of the US modern, and it wasn't a significantly strong field. So I did kind of think those two guys might get through just for that reason.
Yeah, I think with Punk, also I think going back to WWE helps a lot. People really love that Hell in a Cell with McIntyre and some of the work that he's been doing there. But I mean, I think whether you like the guy or not, I mean, seeing the business he did for AEW and how that initial Rampage drew that crowd and that TV rating and the pay-per-view buys they were doing, you know, the guy was a draw. And I think, you know, there was also a big argument of that when he was in WWE. They didn't really want to push him. And then also being gone from wrestling for so long and then coming back and kind of being proven to be a star, I think it really helps his case. And yeah, I think also, you know, top guy in WWE right now as well. So I definitely get Punk. And also you go back to all like the Ring of Honor stuff that he did as well. Pre-WWE, I think plays into like his in-ring work stuff.
Yeah, I'd have to look a little bit further into all of this because they just basically have the breakdown of the percentages that the people got votes for, but it's not, or what Rich sent over to us doesn't have the breakdown of which regions and criteria they were in. So it's a little harder to tell here. But, you know, it does look like June Byers, Junkyard Dog, and Hayabusa are very close to getting in. I'm a little surprised Jesse Ventura is as high as he is. And, you know, for New Japan guys, Zach is not really that far off, and that might surprise people, but he got like 49.7% of the vote. So he's like very much in play to potentially still get in the Hall of Fame right now. Yeah.
I mean, I think that he's a slam dunk Hall of Famer just for like in-ring work. And then also, you know, he was focal point in the British scene for so long, and then maybe not the top draw in Japan, but one of the top guys in Japan, just an incredible in-ring worker. I think if you're really weighing, I know some guys really weigh that in-ring part of the vote. I'll see Ishii getting in off the strength of his in-ring. I think Zach is obviously one of the best wrestlers in the world, multiple time, you know, technical wrestler, award winner. I don't know. I think that he is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, in the modern era, and where what your feelings are when it comes to quote unquote work rate and all that and blah blah yada yada yada, that's fine. But I do think that there is, on some level, some aspect of validity when it comes to what does the greater audience of fans think when it comes to rating matches. I don't think you can put all your stock into that, but tends to be the better you are, the more of those great ratings you get. And in modern times, if you just go through like cage match, and we're talking about modern, like in the last couple decades, you're going to really struggle to find anybody that has as many great matches on tape and rated as highly as Zack Sabre Jr. You're going to be talking about guys like Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi,
Ospreay,
Will Ospreay, AJ Styles, Bryan Danielson,
Joe,
Samoa Joe. I don't even think Joe has as many, honestly. That's who we're talking about, that level of guy. The Young Bucks collectively would also be in that argument, but like you're going to struggle to find, Ishii's another one, Kota Ibushi, but you're going to struggle to find someone with the same catalog of quality matches as him, regardless of how you feel about his work or drawing ability or character or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I wish I was more involved with the Hall of Fame. I wish I had a ballot, and I wish I was educating myself more. But the reality is, I got to work on this Tanahashi shit. So
yeah. And, Rich did a live stream on the Social Suplex YouTube channel last week, breaking down some of the stuff. And there's some clips of that as well on the YouTube channel. So check out Rich's audio. Also, like you mentioned, Voices of Wrestling flagship on their Patreon. They always yearly do audio. They break down the nominees. They bring guests in. They reveal their ballot. So
I have a little dog that is begging me to feed him. So I'm going to step away. You can continue with the questions. I will jump back in and we'll close out here in a minute.
Okay. So next question here from Les Commission 7252 says, what is your favorite moment from New Japan since starting the podcast, and your favorite that you covered? Whether it's match, stories, doing the award show, recommended matches, etc. Oh, man. I mean, we've been doing this now since, end of 2017. I don't know. There's so many great moments and matches that we've covered. I mean, the conclusion of Omega Okada will always be something that stands out for me. That Dominion Iron Man matchup, or 2 out of 3 Falls matchup at Dominion, and watching that with Josh and Rich in the old dojo, and I just felt like we were watching like something legendary happening and something for the history books, and that'll always be a standout, match/moment. I mean, Tanahashi, firing up against Kota Ibushi in the G1 finals in 2018. That was obviously a great moment there. Very memorable. Kenny winning G1. Oh man, there's so many great moments that we've covered. Tons of matches, tons of stories. I mean, I think, when we had just started the show is when Jericho showed up and did the whole angle at Power Struggle and led into Alpha versus Omega. And I think that was monumentous and just a huge moment there. And I think that's, obviously a very important match to help launch AEW. But I think that match also helped the popularity of our podcast as well. Obviously, people are fans of Jericho and they're trying to figure out, all right, what's he doing? What's this New Japan thing? How do I watch it? What's going on? And so I feel like we had a lot of people jumping to us to try and figure out, all right, what's going on with this New Japan thing? How do I watch? How do I tune in? And who is Jericho facing and what's going on? And I feel like that whole Alpha versus Omega storyline was the start of a wave of continued increased popularity of New Japan in the West, and then obviously the eventual start of AEW. So that was just a very monumental matchup and moment right there. Then his next question, he asked to grade each faction from this year. All right, let's see. So we got United Empire. I'm gonna say F for them. That faction just has completely crumbled. Who else we got? Bullet Club War Dogs. I'd probably give those guys like a B plus. I feel like overall the War Dogs have been very entertaining, have been a solid unit, and had some great matches. And a lot of the top guys have been in key spots throughout the year. So Josh, I'm last question asked about grading each of the factions from this year. Gave United Empire F. Gave Bullet Club B plus. Let's see. There's Hantai.
I won't do it.
You won't do it?
No. I don't think that any of them were very good this year, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I feel like the War Dogs were pretty solid this year.
I guess.
But yeah, Hantai. I mean, Hantai is always one that never really feels like a faction. Unaffiliated.
What about Stray Dog Army?
Unaffiliated. I don't know. They're
Team Filthy.
Their in-ring work's been fine, but the whole not being an actual faction thing, I don't know. I guess a C for them.
Bro, none of the factions are real factions. There's only like 2 or 3 real factions. That's why I'm like, I don't know, TMDK? I don't know.
Yeah, TMDK kind of had I feel like not their strongest year this year, but I mean, they would be more towards the top. Like, I would put them in along with War Dogs as like the 2 top factions for the year. And his question before that was a favorite moment from New Japan since starting the podcast, and favorite that you covered, whether it's match stories, doing the award show, recommended matches, etc. I mean, I mentioned us watching Omega Okada together, the 2 out of 3 falls at Dominion. Talked about Tanahashi's, firing up in the G1 finals against Ibushi. Talked about Omega versus Alpha versus Omega, and like Jericho, making his debut. Like, we were just starting when like Jericho did that angle and everything that led from that. So that's kind of stuff I mentioned.
Tanahashi beating Omega in the Dome. That's one of them.
Anything else?
You pretty covered it. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. It's a lot. So there's a lot to that question.
Yeah.
I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah. There's so many. Yeah. We've been doing this for so long now. There's so many great stuff that we've covered. And
I'm getting tired.
Yeah. And also being G1 in Dallas. I mean, I think that was just a cool moment to be a part of that and cover that live. That dude named Menace. Do you feel like Doki is being mismanaged? Yes.
Yes.
After Tanahashi, what's next for New Japan? I mean,
Shota.
Hopefully it's Tsuji. In a fantasy book, who would you like to see New Japan? Who would you like to see in New Japan in the near future, native or foreign?
Who would you like to see in New Japan in the near future? So I'm guessing he's saying like, who from the outside would you want to come into the company and see them wrestle?
Yeah.
Hard to say, because it's like, if I pick someone from like the Japanese domestic indies or majors, then you're pretty much robbing one of the other companies of like a very much needed star. And I mean, take your pick. It doesn't matter which star it is. You take someone and it's like the house of cards are folding in on themselves. So you can't really do that. It's like, the US indies are pretty much dead. Same thing with the UK. I don't know. I'll throw out one that's a little off the cuff. I would like to see Luke Jacobs come back or come to New Japan. How about that? You know,
Yeah.
Strong UK guy that they could really use, that they could build with. That's my pick.
I'm going to go with Bad Dude Tito. I feel like he's tailor made for New Japan, and it baffles me that
the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. Like we got money to bring over Jacob Austin Young, but we can't bring over Bad Dude Tito. Come on, man.
Yeah, I think those are two really solid picks that not everyone else would say, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just glad we didn't say Hangman Adam Page, you know?
Hangman Pagey. Death Triangle 720. Do you think we may get another multi-man match at Wrestle Kingdom? A ton of talent are confirmed for the Dome, and using a sellout Wrestle Kingdom would be a great way to showcase a ton of the young gen on the roster. Yes.
Very possibly.
Yeah. Who do you think could leave a faction right now and create their own faction?
Suji.
Umino. After Wrestle Kingdom, do you want to see New Japan bring in some new talent?
Always.
Yeah,
I always want to see them bring in new talent.
Yeah.
I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing with Kukai. I think that is an and you know what? I'm going to be honest with you here. This isn't necessarily my own original thought. I heard I was listening to Jcast, and Joel was over there, and he was talking about how like there is sort of this untapped market in the Mexican indie scene where it's like there's talent down there, not on TV, not affiliated or signed to anybody. And if you're looking for good talent, that is a place that you could definitely kick the tires. But you know, the other thing too is like the Japanese, I know that people don't love like the idea of like the shindies or whatever, but as long as you're not pulling from, you know, who would be like the big four? It'd be like DDT, All Japan, Noah. Who else am I? Big Japan.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's that. Big Japan, DDT, Noah, All Japan. Those,
yeah.
And then Dragon Gate. Those are like your big five. If the talent you're taking is from like other feeder system companies that are down there, that's another thing that might be worth considering, because there probably is some good talent that could be developed within Japan domestically that are worthwhile to kick the tires on.
Yeah. I think that the Mexico Indies too, like you mentioned, is such a great spot to bring people into as well. He also says, with the Indies being depleted of another promotion to work, do you think New Japan take a gamble and bring in some talent?
What other promotion to work got depleted? I don't know what you're talking about.
There was an indie promotion recently. I think was it a DPW? I think some.
Did they close down?
They're shutting down. Yeah.
Everyone loves them.
Yeah, I know.
Aren't those the guys that reached out to us and like wanted to partner when it first started?
It could have been.
Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Bro, it was that New Japan group that we were part of where they were doing like the fan picks or whatever. And then some of the guys that were in there like hit us up and they were like, hey, we're starting this wrestling promotion. We'd like to come on your podcast, talk about it. We're like, well, it's really a New Japan podcast. And I feel like I'd have to go back and look, but I feel like it was the DPW guys. And then they like blew up and I was like, damn, I wish we probably should have had them on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sucks. Doesn't everyone like love that shit?
Yeah, it's been one of the best indies going in North America the last couple of years. But yeah, they're going out of business. So yeah, some good talent there. My boy LeBron Cozone, one of the top guys in there. He's a guy I think would be good in New Japan. But yeah, so there'll be a lot of indie talents kind of floating around when that closes. Next question, Legitimate Cream 1773 says, I think almost any fan of NJPW considers Takeshita winning at the Dome to be at least one sign of the apocalypse, but is there a way where it could be a good thing? I'm still haunted by the Super J-Cast saying that one of their sources had hinted that something really bad was coming, and I can't think of anything worse than Takeshita winning at the Dome.
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about, and I'm not sure what he's alluding to, but could I say it's the worst thing that could possibly happen? No, I mean, I think there are ways you could potentially have Takeshita win and it be beneficial. It just depends on how they go about doing that. And so far, they haven't shown the propensity to do that successfully so far. So,
yeah, I think Takeshita winning becomes bad if they do the whole AEW angle thing of an Okada beats Tanahashi.
I think it's bad if it just continues exactly as it is right now and nothing changes. It's very clear to me that something has to change one way or the other.
Yeah. Also asked, do you think Jake Lee is coming back soon? I've been thinking that a returning Lee could be a catalyst that breaks up / kills War Dogs, but at this point, I don't know if he even has legs. I mean,
I don't know. He's been out for a long time. I've heard some things about, the state of his health, so I can't really say, but I wouldn't be totally surprised if he came back.
Yeah, it could be a New Year's Dash kind of thing, or a Rambo surprise maybe. Also, as post Wrestle Kingdom, will Goto be their biggest remaining star? If so, are they wasting him by reuniting Bishamon? If that's the long-term plan.
I don't know that that's the case, but perhaps you can make that argument.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you need Bishamon for a World Tag League. But we've kind of seen Goto kind of go in and out from the tag division when needed. So I think for right now, putting him in Bishamon, kind of recovering from losing the title is fine. And then obviously, beginning of the year, New Japan Cup, you could break him off again. Then his last question, at a risk of triggering an aneurysm, is one or all of you, can you figure out any kind of sense and logic to how Yu Uemura, Shota Umino, Narita, and Rhea Oiwa have been booked? I would have included Tsuji, but they seem to have finally got themselves sorted unless they're going to pull the worst Uno reverse.
I repeat that. Who are we complaining about?
Yuya, Umino, Narita, and Oiwa.
You got to let it play out, bud.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on the push the young guys train for a while now, and obviously, yeah, Tsuji's getting finally getting the push now, but yeah, I think they need to pick up the pace with the other four guys.
I mean, I will say this. They're in a position where in order for this show to be successful, they need to focus. I know, yes, we've lobbied about how they need to push young guys and make that the central focus point of the show. But at the same time, they have these other big money matches that have to be, catered to. And that means that there's not always going to be as much attention or spots for everyone else that's around all the time that's deserving. So that's just, it's part of promotion. That's part of wrestling. And hopefully they figure it out and they're able to do something that is worthwhile and meaningful with those guys that we will all be invested in.
Yeah. Then last two questions here from Live Valuably 381. Do you think the juniors are being misused for Wrestle Kingdom? The four-way will probably be a fun match, but I don't see why they couldn't have had Doki, just have Doki in the match.
I still suspect that that's what will end up happening here.
And then it's kind of the wool over the eyes, and he'll take Show's spot.
I think it will be something where it's set up during the road to Tokyo Dome, and they'll switch their spots out, and it might even be against his will, sort of thing.
Yeah. And then last question: would you rather see the Rambo or the 6-man Gauntlet return? Yo T something regarding the 6-man belts at the Tokyo Dome the other day.
I mean, I'm fine with either. I don't really care, but I do like how they were, using the Rambo as a means to set up a future title challenger. But, if they're not going to do that, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen them do both in the past. And I mean, I'm fine with that too. Yeah. So, I mean, I think both of them serve their purpose. So I'll be fine with both. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. So next week we'll be back to review the first 3 nights of World Tag League and cover all the latest news. And remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you can sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan, at YB_Josh and Liger. On Facebook, follow us at Facebook.com/Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. And join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. And you can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. And check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio with Rich Latta and James Floyd. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Imps AEW Adventure with The Implications Matthew Merritt. Wrestling Art with Chris Things. Tunnel Talk with Ali and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.